everybody for how you guys doing?
Hello, how are you?
Hey guys.
Hey, how's the audio?
I can't hear you, Drew. I lost your
Yeah,
audio.
Drew. Yeah, me too.
Oh, really? Wait, you
Yeah, you're back
can't
now.
hear
You're
my
back.
audio? Okay.
You're back.
So audio's okay?
Yeah, it's all right.
Okay, excellent,
Yes.
excellent. And everyone's got headphones on as well.
Yep, right here.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Now, beautiful. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to the Drew Pavlu Show. This is a very special episode 81, the Iran diaspora debate. We've got Shargh Zadeh and Matin Samimiat. Matin's got his hat that was famous from the Jubilee show. Shargh Zadeh is dressed up as well. This is really good. We will discuss a range of things. I think maybe we can discuss, maybe the guests can introduce themselves. So I'll go ahead and I'll say, Shargh Zadeh, do you want to introduce yourself? And then Matin, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. Hello to Drew and to Matin and to everyone watching. So my name is Muhammad Ali Mojarradi. I go by Shargh Zadeh online, which means East struck. Every Iranian knows the term Gharb Zadeh. So I feel like I'm the opposite of that. I'm struck by the East, though I'm a Westerner in a way. And my primary work is not this. It's not debating politics. It's actually translating and teaching Persian Sufi poetry. So people like Rumi and Sadi and Hafez that all Iranians love. So Mr. Matin and I maybe disagree on a million things, but I think we can agree that these are some of the gems of our civilization. So I try to present a good face for Persianate culture, spread our language. I teach our language. I have our classes on PersianPoetics.com. I teach the Persian language, the poets. And I am also passionate about Iranian diaspora issues, but I'm not really a political animal. This debate is actually a different thing for me. For those of you who follow me, you'll know. But I just felt passionate about it, so here I am. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. And do you want to introduce yourself, Matin? Yes, please.
So, hello everyone. I hope the audio is good, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, perfect. So, well, I'm Matin Samimiat. I've been in the U.S. for about a decade now. Came here, became a citizen. I'm proud of it. So, first of all, I'd like to thank Muhammad or Shargh Zadeh for what he does, translating those gems of poetry into English, for the world to see. And I mean, like you said, we might have a lot of disagreements, but that's something worth admiring and appreciating. And I am very much a political animal. I do a lot of political activism on the conservative side, and I'm a free speech advocate. I spent most of my life back in Iran under that tyrannical regime, so I really value the First Amendment that we have in the United States, and for me, it's important to use my voice and my background to defend it at all costs. And I don't know if you want me to get into the Jubilee stuff, or we could leave that for later. But I think that's a good enough intro.
Sure. All right. Yeah, I think we should get into that. So, did you want to jump in every time, Drew, or do you want to just let us go back and forth?
I'll let you guys go back for one second. I just want to test something out. Matin, is there potentially a bit of audio feedback on your side? Or do you have? Are you sitting behind like a fan or something like that?
There is a fan because it's pretty hot with the hat. Okay, I could try to adjust it.
Maybe lower it a bit.
Maybe slightly lower, and I think the audio is mostly pretty good, but yeah, let's maybe slightly lower it, and then we can get into it.
Sure. Let me take care of it real quick.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
I hope it's better. Sorry, I don't have the best setup.
Yeah, no worries. And we've already got a lot of comments saying Drew is a Turk. So this is a debate between three Levantine, three people from the Orient, you see, and
okay, sure.
Three great Aryans. Okay, So, okay, what do you guys want to start on? Do you want to start, Shargh?
Yeah, we agreed on the Jubilee thing, so I'll go ahead and start.
Yeah.
Again, Salam, I think good to talk to you, and I want to just start by saying that this conversation is not to attack you. It's in the spirit of brotherhood. You know, we're both Iranians, and I just want to express to you, be a diplomat, a nice diplomat, for the people, literally the tens of millions of people who were very offended by what you said. So instead of someone yelling at you on Twitter, I want to present to you what I think our point of view is. And essentially, it's that I really regret the way you refuse to condemn the death of Palestinian children. You talked about, did they have a suicide vest, or are they brainwashed from a young age? And the language of cleanse, I know you don't mean an ethnic cleansing. I understand that. I don't want to mischaracterize you. But just that type of talking, I think, is really regrettable. And I understand Mehdi is a journalist. He's pinning you down. He wants to get a video clip for Jubilee. I get that. But we're not that here. So I want to give you the opportunity to say, do you feel like you misspoke, or do you want to walk any of it back? Do you regret anything you said? Do you think he pushed you in a corner? I mean, are you willing to just say, I condemn any death of any children in Palestine, or I condemn, the actions that even Zionists would condemn? I mean, our friend Drew here, and I consider him a friend, is a Zionist. That's fine. And I think if I asked him, would you condemn the death of Palestinian children, he would see them like Ukrainian children or like children anywhere in the world. So are you willing to just say that?
Perfect. That's a good place to start. So first, I would definitely address your question, but I'm gonna I'd like to start by how it all began, because I noticed, a lot of the criticism, or that, why would you even go debate him and not be fully prepared? And we don't know who we're debating up until the moment the person walks in. And we also don't know who they're going to be teamed up. So now, obviously, on the Jubilee video, you could clearly see how Mehdi was trying to pit me against everyone else in the room. And just to clarify something for all the listeners here, because I've seen a lot of the comments, that, Matin's trying to appease the white race and, be accepted by them, and they're never going to accept them or anything like that. No. I'm not trying to appease anyone. I was there to simply debate my point of view. And now, of course, it got to the immigration part, which, is a topic, I always enjoy talking about. And then after that, got to the Israel and Palestine part. At its core, I'm against the death of any innocent children. But the part where Mehdi was trying to prevent me from talking, which was a smart move on his end, because I think he wanted to prevent me to use my background and some of the knowledge I have by simply being born there and being an Iranian to my own advantage. So he wanted to prevent me from doing that, because what I was trying to get into was that this is a population that has been brainwashed from a very young age to hate Christians, Jews, and pagans. And of course, a 4-year-old's not going to radicalize right away. It takes time. And it's one of the tactics that the Islamic Republic in Iran likes to do to children as well, in schools. And they like to start early, and they like to fill your head with hatred towards all the other people. And I'm trying to explain this on Jubilee, and he keeps jumping in, and then it starts with the hypothetical, and like, what if there's this IDF a sniper killing innocent children? What I should have said, and first of all, where's the proof of that? I know this is a very highly contentious question nowadays, that the IDF is sniping innocent children, but I've yet to see concrete proof of that. And I'm not a big fan of trusting media from Hamas or Al Jazeera. So, like I said, at its core, I'm against any innocent children being killed. But if even like a 17-year-old or a 14-year-old has been brainwashed to the point and radicalized to the point to kill anyone who has opposing views to him, who is not a Muslim, who's a Jew, who's a Christian, if it comes to that, if it becomes whether is your survival or their survival. You have to defend yourself, your family, and your countrymen at all costs. It's a war. It's not friendship. You can't expect everyone to like, oh, here, I'm gonna pat you on the back.
All right, let me jump in a little bit.
that's
But
how
I mean, wars have rules, right? I mean, do we live in a jungle or do we live in a world with order? I mean, I'd hope that the rules would include that innocent children don't get killed. And it's funny. You said they treat them or teach them to be brainwashed to hate Christians. Are you aware that there is a large population of Palestinian Christians, including in Gaza, and that Israel recently bombed and destroyed their last church, the church that the Pope would call? So I don't know if Hamas is brainwashing anyone to hate the Christians. That's theoretical, unproven, an Islamophobic talking point. But what's true is that Israel does blow up churches in Gaza. Israeli settlers do spit at Christians who are visiting. So if you want to talk about who has a problem with Christians, the Israelis also don't have a good record.
Well, when it comes to asking a Christian, very in the Middle East would be a safe and peaceful place for you to live. Most of them would pick Israel.
I don't. That's absolutely untrue. I have to jump in. I've lived in the Arab world. I've lived in countries with large Arab Christian populations like Jordan. I grew up in the Chaldean Iraqi ethnic enclave in Detroit. I grew up with Chaldeans, speaking Arabic to them. They are very strongly against Israel, many of them. In fact, from the Arab nationalist perspective, that's a big Hasbara talking point. And I don't mean to attack you, but I'd really invite you to come with me to Dearborn, to the Arab community, to an Arab country, and speak to them. Arabs are united, Christian or otherwise. I lived in a Coptic Christian neighborhood in Kuwait, actually, in Hawali, my street, were all Egyptian Copts, and they didn't like Israel, right? They're more Arab ultimately. They're Arab, right? They feel Arab. The Arab nationalism is meaningful to them, right? And Israelis don't care if a Palestinian is Arab or Christian, right? And if you say live in Israel, this is like a theory, right? If you move there and you live there as a foreigner who has like a visa, but the daily life of Palestinians, they suffer, whether they're Christian or not. And in the video, I'm glad you said innocent Palestinians today, because in the video you said so-called innocent Palestinians, implying that there are none. And then you made it seem like Hamas is responsible for their deaths. I just feel like you're not lending these people any humanity. And when you say I don't trust the media, I don't trust Hamas media, I don't trust Al Jazeera, I agree. I would love there to be objective Western journalists. You know why there aren't? Because Israel won't let them into Gaza. So I agree. I don't want to have to trust Al Jazeera. I don't love Al Jazeera. I would love to trust the BBC and American media and European media, but they don't let them in. So let the media in, and then we can trust the Western media.
Well, I mean, when it comes to good reporters, you might have big squeeze over him, but Douglas Murray, he's done good underground.
Douglas
reporting.
Murray. This guy's a hardcore propagandist, super right-wing, super Islamophobic, just pushing all kinds of great replacement narratives, just far-right Israeli propagandist. A person who's taken on a tour by the Israeli government to look at Gaza and do a propaganda tour like they do with Iran International and Mount Atol is not a real journalist. And he wasn't a journalist. He was just like a social commentator. After October 7th, he did this pivot and became a journalist. Go ahead, Drew. You were raising your hand.
I'll say one thing. As people know, I'm coming from the more. I believe in the right of Israel.
Your audio is really bad. I'm sorry. Your audio is really bad. You barely hear you.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry. I was just going to quickly say, listen. People know I'm a Zionist. I support the right of Israel to exist. That said, look. At the end of the day, Douglas Murray, he is going on IDF tours. I guess it's not. You can't really say that it's independent, but I understand what you mean. But yeah, I'll go back.
And then another good example would be Jack Spencer. He teaches at West Point. He's a professor. And he did a beautiful report on whether there is a genocide going on in Palestine or not, and how the measure Israel takes to ensure to reduce the death of innocent people. And I'd recommend all the listeners to go look up Jack Spencer and his reports, and I mean, I understand that you guys might have some problems with Douglas Murray, but at least look at Jack Spencer. Very good reports too.
Do you mean John Spencer? Do you mean John Spencer?
I think it's Jack. But let me see. I could try to look it up.
Can I present a hypothetical? Let's set the question of genocide aside, because I'm not really interested in semantic debates. Let's just say even not Israel, just any army. Pick the army. If you say Israel's the most moral army, I think you might say that. Pick the second most moral army in the world, the one that you agree with. And let's say that they accidentally killed children, purely on accident. They didn't mean to. Would you condemn that? I mean, you still haven't said, I condemn the killing of children. I regret what I said. There are innocent Palestinians. I just feel like there's a lack of humanity. So Israel bombed Iran, right? Bombed our home country. Are you from Tehran too? I think you might be. A lot of Iranian Americans are. Where are you from, Aliman?
No, I'm not actually from Tehran.
Where are you from?
I'm from Isfahan, actually.
Beautiful Isfahan,
Well,
the gem of Iran.
not Isfahan itself, but it's actually a small town.
It's all right. We say Nisfa Jahan, half the world. It's a gem. Isfahan was attacked. My town, Tehran, was attacked. Children died. This is undisputable, right? Would you condemn that Israel killed Iranian children?
No, I wouldn't condemn Israel for that, because I would.
You wouldn't condemn Israel for killing Iranian children?
I would put the blame on the Islamic Republic, because Islamic Republic is the one that brought all that death and destruction to our people, to our children.
So you can't just say, I, Matin Samimiat, condemn Israel killing an Iranian child. You just can't say that statement.
No, I can't. It's as simple as that. Because,
come on,
like I said,
are we being serious here, man? These are your compatriots. This is your hamvatan. You could have lived with them. You're not against that? So you think they should be killed so the Islamic Republic can collapse, which it didn't, by the way. But you think so?
Look, actually, where I lived was very close to one of their nuclear facilities. And to be honest, I was worried when the bombings were happening. But to condemn Israel for the death of those people and to divert the blame from the Islamic Republic, it is wrong. It's the same thing, with the Israel and Palestine. You can't really put the blame on Israel when people are paying for the actions of Hamas and the Islamic Republic.
Look, here's where your logic is wrong. I live in New York City. I take the subway. Imagine you're standing on the subway platform and a crazy person punches you in the face. You have a right, according to American law, to punch them in the face back. Just like Israel. Look, I'm a Muslim, and you will so rarely find a Muslim that will say, I get it. Israel attacking Gaza after October 7th, I get it on a human level. When you're attacked, you want to hit back. I get it. You want to punch the guy in the face. That's fine. But you don't get to shove him in front of the subway track so the subway can run him over. And when the police come to arrest you for murder, you say, it's not my fault that I pushed him in front of the tracks. It's his fault for punching me in the face. That's the situation here. Israel attacked Iran totally unprovoked. Iran was engaging in the talks in perfectly good faith. Everyone acknowledges that. Even America was caught blindsided and upset. Everyone was upset by this attack, totally out of the blue. Look, I'm not going to say Iran's not Israel's enemy, but this was totally out of the blue. Iran was doing as much strategic patience as they could to avoid a direct confrontation. So how are you going to say it's the Islamic Republic's fault, right? This goes back to my analogy.
Unprovoked.
It wasn't provoked. Okay.
We are talking about years of them openly threatening Israel with nuclear warfare. Like, once we get a nuke, you're going to be the target. And besides, I know you spent some time in Iran. Like, I forgot the age you went back, but
as a teenager and as an adult.
When you were in high school, I don't know if you went to high school.
Yeah, I went to high school in Iran. Yeah, I went to high school there.
Did they make you shout to death to Israel? And
no, we did. I am against that stuff. I was there. In our high school, they had posters. Yes, that said death to America, death to Israel. They would take us to pray. They would take us to recite Quran. I'm not here to defend any of that. I'm not a representative of the Iranian government. I don't think anyone anywhere should say death to anyone. When Ahmadinejad said, I want to wipe Israel off the map, when that news spread, I was actually sitting with my Jewish friends. New York is full of Jews. I grew up with Jews, right? I told them I condemn
Jewish population in the US.
I condemn anyone saying they're going to wipe anyone off the map. But you won't. You said you should wipe the Hamas off the map, which basically means Gaza. And you had a lawsuit over that. That's your settlement, right? So I'm willing to say Ahmadinejad wiping Israel off the map is condemned. It doesn't represent me. It doesn't represent Islam. He believes it belongs in the dustbin of history. But you don't. You say that you're Ahmadinejad just for Israel. You say wipe Hamas off the map. You have that same rhetoric. That's what's so ugly about it.
Could I ask? So Matin, when you said wipe Hamas off the map, you're talking about Hamas, or how do you draw the distinction between, say, Hamas and Palestinian civilians in Gaza and stuff like that?
I mean, they're two different things. Even though I've seen polls of just the regular Palestinian population being in support of Hamas, but it's important to differentiate the two. Hamas is a terrorist organization that is mainly funded by Iran. What is it, $300-400 million a year? and they have to go. Like, there is no freedom for Palestinians while Hamas is there, and while ultimately the IRGC is still there.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to sit here and defend Hamas. I'm not going to disagree. I'm an American. I like the way America runs. I prefer people to have liberal freedoms. But look, when you say wipe Hamas off the map, Hamas is embedded within the civilian population. So when you say that, you're saying, yeah, we have to kill a lot of civilians to get rid of Hamas, which is basically what Israel's doing. So then I don't believe
why do they have to be embedded within the civilian population? If they cared about their own people, why would they do that?
They don't care. I agree. Fine. They don't care. I'm not here to say they care. I'm not part of Hamas. I don't support Hamas. I'm not in Hamas. I condemned Hamas on Twitter. And a lot of Muslims say I'm an apostate because I did that. I'll happily condemn them. I condemn Hamas. I'm not here to defend Hamas. And I don't know what their psychology is, but the reality is innocent Palestinians are suffering in the midst. The Palestinians, not all of them, decided to support Hamas. There was anti-Hamas demonstrations. And when you say Iran has slogans, you know what? In Iran, yes. As a kid, we were made to chant death to America, death to Israel. But Iran hasn't actually destroyed any country. You know who has destroyed countries? America destroyed Iraq and Afghanistan. And Israel's destroying Gaza and Lebanon. So we say destroy, but they actually destroy. Go ahead, Drew.
Can I ask you, Shargh? So look, I want to say, right, I acknowledge that there were civilians killed in those Israeli attacks in Iran. And obviously I condemn the death of any civilian, the killing of any civilian. There were strikes that were not targeted at all, and I condemn that fully. I just want to say, though, like, when you say it was completely unprovoked, I mean, we know, like, for example, like, Iran has funded Hezbollah for a long time. Iran has also funded Hamas. There was the construction of the axis of resistance, and the whole point of the axis of resistance is ultimately the destruction of Israel. So I think we can't say it's completely unprovoked, but that's just me. Fair
enough. Yeah, okay, I'll concede the semantics on that, but ultimately, the fact of the matter is Iran engaged in good faith for the nuclear deal, and Trump, look, Drew, you're a classical liberal. You're not going to defend Trump here. Trump tore it up for no reason. It was a good deal. Basically, the whole world was in consensus, and Iran was essentially trying to do a repeat of that, and Israel derailed America's foreign policy. And here, remove the Islamic hat. I was going to wear a turban, but I saw that Matin said that it's a raghead, towel head thing. He calls turbans raghead, so I didn't wear the turban.
Is that true, Matin?
Well, to be more specific, I'm talking about the ones that the Ayatollahs like to wear.
Okay, fair enough. But I'll take the Islamic hat off, and I'll put my American hat on. I'll speak as an American. My country, America, was engaging with Iran. Both sides were engaging in good faith to avoid nuclear proliferation in the Middle East, which would be a disaster, and to avoid a war. And Israel overstepped its bounds and derailed that process. And Israel is supposed to be our client state. It's our what do they say, aircraft carrier in the Eastern Levant or whatever in the Middle East. What kind of client state steps over bounds and derails the process of the master state? What kind of situation is that? And Matin, you're proud to be American. I'm glad that you are, and I'm glad that you're an American. I'm happy to have Iranians in America, such as, my grandpa who came here. If you're proud to be an American, your taxes, I don't know if you pay them, I do, fund Israel and its actions. So we should hold it accountable and not allow it to just be unleashed and unhinged, frankly.
So, the first thing I'd like to touch on, from what you were saying was the nuclear deal. See, I'm completely opposed to any deals with a terrorist government such as the IRGC, because doing any deals with them will simply prolong their survival and the suffering of the people. And not only the Iranian people, but also the Palestinian people, the Lebanese people, the Yemenis, the Iraqis, and I just can't see any deals to be made with them. I simply believe they have to be eradicated.
So you believe in war, basically. You want a war against your own country.
Because if that's what's going to set us free from the dictators that have been subjugating us for over four decades, then so be it. Because
so the answer is yes. You're saying I, Matin Samimiat, want a war against the country I was born and raised in. That's your answer.
To even add on top of it, I'd gladly hold up arms and go fight Ayatollahs.
You would pick up a gun and go in your own country and kill your own compatriots.
They're not my compatriots. The Ayatollahs are not my compatriots.
But average Iranians are on the ground. Ayatollahs aren't holding guns. It's average Iranians. You're just a kha'in. I'm an American saying I don't want America to be full of people who are traitors to their countries. We don't want traitors in this country. I take it back. I'm not happy to have you as an American. I don't want traitors in America. Okay, I want people who have some sense of loyalty and dignity. For God's sake, you'd kill your own compatriots just because you hate the government.
They're not my compatriots. They are invaders upon both of our lands.
If there was a war in Iran, the Sarbaz, the average people who did you do your Sarbazi in Iran?
No.
Okay. Do you have a brother or a cousin that did Sarbazi military service in Iran?
I know many people who have done it.
Okay, if you took up arms, you're not going to be killing an 80-year-old Ayatollah. You're going to be killing a 20-year-old Bichara Badbakh poor guy Sarbaz. So you're going to be killing your own people. You're going to be like the MEK.
Do you really think they're going to have the power to have a full on, big war going on with like soldiers?
Yes.
No.
Look at the Iraqi resistance. The insurgency lasted years, and we lost.
There are already people defecting from the IRGC and from the military. And
where are they? I don't see them. We hear about this from the monarchist side. Where are they? I love to see them. I love to talk to them. Where are they? This is just a talking point. Look, man, if Iran was invaded, all the military experts say it's 4 times the size of Iraq and 4 times the population. Iraq required what, like 250,000 soldiers? We would need 1 million boots on the ground. And the Iranians would resist. There would be a rally around the flag effect that we already saw from the 12-day war. So I highly, highly recommend that you walk this back. Take up arms against your own country?
I have a question. It's Shargh, what would you estimate support for the regime is in Iran?
This is my best way, most objective way of doing it, is that in every election that's uncontested, so there have been contested elections in Iran, but ones that are broadly accepted, like when Rouhani won the first time, for example. A participation in that election, I was in Iran, actually, when that happened, is 80%, right? I voted for Rouhani. Now, he'll call me a mullah supporter. I voted for him because I didn't want a war in my country, because I don't want to see my compatriots die. I don't want to have another generation of Iranians grow up in basements surrounded by rice bags like my parents did because people like him joined with the MEK attack. But putting that aside, 30% or so consistently vote for the most far-right candidate, speaking in Iranian terms, the most conservative. So I think it's fair to say that anywhere from 15 to 20 to 30% are ideological believers, true believers. They believe on an ideological level, whether they get benefits or they work for the state or not. And then another percentage have nationalistic sympathies that can be won over or lost. So when Israel attacks, their sympathies are won over. When hijab issues come up, they're lost. And then 50% are varying degrees of disagreement.
The important thing to add is that the elections in Iran are a joke because ultimately it's the supreme leader who controls everything.
I said uncontested elections, uncontested.
All right, so sorry. I overlooked that part. But, overall, just presidential elections, they're like, almost like an act to tell people like, hey, see, you have democracy, you have the right to vote. It's just a false promise because ultimately, their vote doesn't mean anything.
Well, if it doesn't mean anything, then how come the attitude of the country, the perspective of the country, the economy all changes based on who's president? There's a noticeable vibe difference in the country, in the politics and everything, if there's a reformist, quote unquote, or a conservative. So I also disagree with that. I mean, yes, it's true. Iran is not a direct, perfect, unflawed democracy. We're not talking about Switzerland here. It's a developing country, right? And yes, there is a supreme leader and they do choose who the candidates are. But at the end of the day, the election matters. With Rouhani, we had a nuclear deal. And with Raisi, we had increased tensions. And with Pezeshkian, there was supposed to be another nuclear deal. So there is a difference.
Shargh, well, could I ask quickly? Would you say, Shargh, that Iran is a dictatorship?
Well, define dictatorship. You mean that it's not like a liberal democracy?
I mean,
like one man runs the show.
I mean, in the sense that, like, for example, IRGC rule and the Ayatollah, you can't really challenge them through the electoral system.
Well, in a way, voting for the reformist is a subtle challenge, if that makes sense. I mean, it's not a direct challenge. Like they're not like Navalny or Juan Guaido or something. They're within the system. But you can argue that many people who vote for the most reform-minded candidate is a subtle challenge, if that makes sense. So look, yes, Iran is run by a supreme leader. So if you want to say it's a dictatorship, yeah, technically, sure. But I find a lot of times is it a dictatorship? Do you condemn? Are you against terrorism? Like these labels are kind of not so useful for actually getting anywhere. And because, for example, North Korea is a dictatorship, Iran's a dictatorship, Saudi Arabia is a dictatorship, but they're so different in the fundamentals. So it's kind of not useful, that label even. Like America is a democracy and so is Lebanon, but what do they have in common in terms of how they function?
I mean, that's a fair point. Although like the supreme leader ultimately does have the ultimate sort of veto power over the foreign policy.
Yeah, he does. He does.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
But there is machinations within. So sometimes he asserts himself. Other times he reluctantly allows a more reformist faction to push a thing that he doesn't agree with, like the nuclear deal. He famously didn't support the nuclear deal.
Well, I don't think any country that kills thousands of its citizens for simply protesting is a democracy. It's a pure dictatorship. There is no questioning that. And then so, point I forgot to mention, when we were talking about the war and things like that, it's important to remember that Trump gave him 60 days, and the bombings happened, on the 61st day. And that's one of the, great things about Trump. He's a man of leverage, and he's a man of playing with, how should I put it? Well, good negotiator. Let's put it that way.
Okay, so if you, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And he's trying to, of course, he's trying to get something done. And the Islamic Republic, they've been doing this for years. They've been trying to test the waters, with each different president. Well, let's see, how Obama does it. Let's see how Biden does it. Let's play around. Let's send a rocket here, see how the response is. With Trump, they're like, oh shit, he's serious. So, and the thing that happened on the 61st day, showed his seriousness.
Look, if your point is that a democracy or a country that kills its citizens when they're protesting peacefully is not a democracy, does not bode well for you, because I'm happy to concede Iran's not a democracy, but you would claim Israel is. And I don't know if you know what happened in Gaza before October 7th. They often say, how come they reacted violently? Well, Gazans have tried the peaceful method. I don't know if you remember, but I was actually in the Arab world when the Great March of Return happened. And when thousands of Gazans walked towards the border peacefully, now you can say not peacefully, but more or less peacefully, and Israel killed thousands of them. And they are, in effect, not citizens, but under Israel's jurisdiction. So I'm happy to say Israel, then I agree with you, Matin, is a dictatorship.
I do want to quickly say, again, I'm not the one debating, but I just want to quickly point out, for example, Sinwar was there present at the March of Return, and he gave speeches saying we're going to break through the fence and destroy Israel and stuff like that. So I'm aware it's a very, very popular talking point that this was kind of like a Gandhian-style, non-violent, peaceful march, but I think it is a bit more complex than that. But sorry, you guys.
But just it's fine. I don't mind your points of information, but just to respond to that, look, every state is fundamentally the same. If its existence is threatened, it responds with violence. America had Kent State, and I understand 20 people is not the same as 2,000. But no, fundamentally, if any state is threatened with its order being overturned, it lashes out and it kills its citizens. The difference is in how liberal-minded the state is, and also how insecure it is, excuse me. So America is very secure in its position. So we had Black Lives Matter, but it doesn't feel like it needs to kill anyone. It knows it'll blow over. States like Iran, where their existence is insecure, Iran, Egypt's a U.S. ally, and it killed 2,000 people in one day during the revolution. They're our ally. So all Middle Eastern states react this way. Not supporting it, I absolutely unequivocally condemn it. A hair on an Iranian's head is precious to me. I wouldn't take up arms against Iran. I wouldn't refuse to condemn a bombing on Iran. Any Iranian that gets killed, I mourn it. Anyone, no matter who, right? But every state acts this way. So to act like Iran is unique is just not true. Our allies kill thousands of people, like Egypt again.
Here's a question for you, Zadeh. You said you wouldn't celebrate. So I understand why you're opposed to Matin basically saying that he would take up arms against the state. I can understand exactly why you would be opposed to that. Would you think there's any way, for example, somebody could be in the Iranian diaspora and anti-regime, but still pro the Iranian people? For example, would you say, this is just an interesting question I have. Say the death of Soleimani, the killing of Soleimani. If, say, Matin were to celebrate the death of Soleimani, would you see that as anti-Iran? Or would you see, because he's such a defined military figure, that would be potentially...
No, I wouldn't see it as anti-Iran. Look, I would see it this way. Sadi Shirazi writes a story about our ancient Persian king, Anushirvan. And a messenger brought a note to him and said, your enemy in so-and-so Arab tribe has died. Will you celebrate? And then he responded to the messenger and said, does your note also say that I will live forever? So as a general rule in the Sufi tradition, we don't celebrate anyone's death. But if you want to celebrate a death, fine. If you want to be against the government in a million ways, fine. But I draw the line. We go from the realm of compatriot talking to you're a traitor, in my opinion, with all due respect, is if you say, I'll take up arms against the country I was born and raised in. That's where I draw the line. So I'm an Iranian American. If I was drafted by the U.S. Army, if I was forced to go fight, I would fight for the country I live in. But if it's against Iran, I'll have to say, look, I can't do this. Strip my citizenship, whatever. But it's a country where my family lives. My blood is from that place. I have a connection to there. I can't pick up a gun and go shoot those people just because the government is not great.
You know, the important thing I mentioned earlier, it's whether those people are considered our compatriots or not. You know, like someone like Qasem Soleimani.
He's not our compatriot. He's an Arab. Is he an Afghan? Is he a...
No, none of that. I'm not even talking about the racial part. You know, his hands were soaked in blood of our people. How can someone like that be considered our compatriot? How can someone like Khamenei or many of the other Ayatollahs be considered our compatriot? Because we have it's time to take this further, because time for talks is over. They have to be like literally eradicated from the face of the earth.
See, this is my problem. This is my problem. Look, we Americans have this Anglo civility culture, and the increasing presence of people like you who come from cultures that don't have civility culture is eroding this. So I don't have a problem with you saying Hamas shouldn't rule Gaza. You said wipe Hamas off the map, like Ahmadinejad. So when you say they need to be eradicated, you sound like a crazy Muslim Ayatollah. You sound like the Taliban. In this civility culture, we don't talk about eradicating.
Well, the thing is,
we say change.
Isn't Hamas a terrorist organization? Isn't Hamas a terrorist?
I'm not passionate about them. But sure, yeah, fine. I don't care. Sure, yeah.
Why would it be bad to want the eradication of a terrorist organization?
You're missing the point. It's the civility. It's the culture that we English-speaking countries have that you just came here. You still need to learn it. We don't talk like that, right? When we invaded Iraq, we didn't say we're going to wipe Iraq off the map. We said Operation Iraqi Freedom. Just say free the Palestinians. They say eradicate them off the map. Get rid of the Ayatollahs. You sound like a brown Muslim guy. It sounds like you're a Sunni who just hates Shias. You could just be a Taliban guy saying, I hate the Shias, eradicate the Shias, except you just happen to be a secular Westerner. Now, look, there's like, you can say, I don't have any camaraderie with Ayatollah Khamenei and Qasem Soleimani and these people, but they are Iranian. They're part of Iran. Look, I'm not worried about their personas, but people who think like them, people who support them, make up a chunk of Iran, and they have a right to be Iranian. Look, I'm an American. I'm liberal-minded. I don't love the far right. I don't love the people who you allied with in that Jubilee debate, the fascists who think me and you are inferior because we're brown. But they're American. They have a right to be in this country. And Iranians, if they're supporters of the government, they have a right to be there. They have a right to think. They have a freedom of conscience. And in a future where Iran is more democratic, they'll have to be included in the process. Just like Turkey has an Islamist party, and Jordan has an Islamist party. All the free Muslim countries still have Islamists.
I want to say one thing. You would be familiar. Are you familiar with this one, Shargh? This reminds me of what you were saying. So Enoch Powell, who's like, obviously he's known in the English-speaking world for the River of Blood speech, and he was considered to be a pretty hardcore sort of ethno-nationalist. He was debating with Margaret Thatcher at the Conservative Debating Club, and Margaret Thatcher basically said something like, "We fight for values," and Enoch Powell said, "We don't fight for values. We fight for something that goes much deeper than values." And he said, I would take up arms and defend this country even if we had a communist government. And Margaret Thatcher said, like, Margaret Thatcher was shocked essentially, and he was basically saying that he for him it wasn't about the values or necessarily the government or the regime. It was about, I guess, the blood and stuff like that. And I think that maybe is a bit more similar to what you're saying. It's an interesting perspective.
Look, let me give you an example from our history. When the Iranian Revolution happened, many people weren't for it. Members of my family were for and against it. Some weren't for it. When Iraq invaded, Christians, Jews are among the martyrs. Forget the Muslims. Christians and Jews volunteered in their martyrs. And you can go in their martyr and see their graves in the martyr cemetery with names like Musa, Moses, Reuven, and Christian names, obviously Christian names, because Iran was under attack. When Iran was attacked, when my mother and father were huddled in basements, where there was no electricity, when we had bread lines, the Jewish Iranian who died, whose blood is precious to me, even if he's Jewish and I'm Muslim, didn't say, I'm defending the mullahs. He says, I'm defending my country. I'm defending my blood. I'm defending my soil, my people, my honor, my dignity. Our women who they were stealing them in Khorramshahr. There's famous stories of them, of the Iranian people being tortured by it when the Baathists came. And you know who was on the other side with the Iraqis? The Mujahideen Khalq, the MEK. And we remember them as traitors. Everyone hates them universally. So if Iran is attacked again today, I openly say, if it's not by America, I would never fight against America because I'm a citizen of this country. My hands are tied. But if an enemy attacked Iran, no, let me finish. If an enemy attacked Iran, I would take up arms and stand right next to the atheist, which is you if you're not a traitor, and right next to the mullah and to the Jew, and I'll fight. And the day when the enemy leaves, I'll turn around and say, okay, now I'm debating you about what the future of our country will be. You'll be on the other side, and you'll be in the dustbin of history with the Mujahideen Khalq.
Well, it's important to touch on this. It's not about it right now. How bad the situation has gotten, it's about matter of survival. The survival of the normal Iranian people, and as long as that regime's in power and they're able to continue, the survival of our people is at risk. So that's why, I have this, you call it extreme, but I call it common sense. I have this view that they have to go. It's as simple as that, by any means necessary.
Sure, even if it's true, let's just say I agree with you in theory, right? Let's just say I agree with you. Let me interrogate this one point. Do you think it's just easy to get rid of the government with a war? How come the 12-day war didn't get rid of the government? I was always told as a kid, if they just throw 3 bombs in Tehran, the Ayatollahs will run to Moscow or to Syria and that the government will be gone. How come the government's still there? 1 million troops is not a joke. Closing the Strait of Hormuz is not a joke. Thousands of ICBMs going to Israel and Saudi Arabia and Riyadh and all these places is not a joke. Iran will be destroyed. Look at Syria. You're advocating for, in effect, a regime change war. Look at Afghanistan and Iraq. Iraq is cut in half, essentially. It can never be a functional state. Taliban is back to ruling Afghanistan. Same story as it was. And look at Syria. The country's about to get tajziyah, as we say in Persian, balkanized, broken up between the Druze and the Bedouin and the Alawites on the coast and Ladiriya. Do you even know where these places are? I don't know. I question, really, with your lack of political wisdom. Is Syria doing good right now? And it's funny. Syria said they wouldn't attack Israel. Israel attacked their defenses. They signaled they'd be willing to give up the Golan Heights and make peace. And they still bombed Syria. And Syria is going to get it's going to get destroyed, and they're using the Druze as an excuse. So that's the future of Iran in this make-believe world of, oh, the invasion will save Iran. This is just, it's childish, man. Come on.
See, that's Iran would never become something like that, because it's important to remember that we had such a good history during the Pahlavi time. We were such a great economy. It shows that there is promise in our land. We have so much natural resources. All it takes is for a ruler that actually loves the country, that is not selling our resources, our wealth to the Chinese, to the Russian, to terrorists, and it would be a beautiful future and a beautiful partnership with the rest of the world, instead of what's going on right now. I know you have your views against monarchism and like the Pahlavi era, but
no, don't misrepresent me. I didn't say that. I grew up with my grandfather. He used to say Reza Shah Iran saqt. Reza Shah built Iran. I'm sorry. I just want to speak. I want to speak Persian. He used to tell me beautiful stories about the Shah. My grandfather, rest in peace. He loved the Pahlavis. I grew up in a family where there was just Pahlavi nostalgia. I have no problem with Reza Shah or even Mohammad Reza Shah. I simply think that his son probably won't make a good king. I mean, he's not that politically astute. I don't have any problems with that. I'm sorry to cut you off. I just want to make sure you don't continue with this incorrect perception. I'm not anti-Pahlavi at all. That's fine. They ruled Iran. They did an okay job. Everyone had good or bad. That's fine. And I agree with you. If we snapped our fingers and tomorrow we woke up and Iran was not fighting with the West and Iran was not politically abnormal and not sanctioned, I would be happy. Of course, we all would be. The issue isn't that. We agree. Iran can be a beautiful place. Every Iranian agrees. The issue is, how do we get there? Your solution is war, is destruction. That's the issue. My solution is peaceful change, like all countries want. Look at South Africa. They changed. Did they need a war? Did we have to invade South Africa? Change is possible. But your vision is destruction.
That's a good question. So, Matin, would you really think that, for example, an invasion is a better way to topple the regime? Because listen, I'm against the Iranian regime. I would love to see a democratic, open Iran. I can't travel to Iran while the regime is in power. I've criticized the regime too much. I'd love for Iran to be a beautiful democratic country, and I'd be able to travel there. I could go with Shargh. Zadeh. It would be beautiful. So listen, I would love to see Iran a democratic country. Look, my personal take is I don't think that can be achieved through war. That's my personal take. I think,
Drew, I'm not necessarily okay with like American boots on the ground.
Yeah.
I feel like that the regime's weak enough that if there are rebel groups in there, because people over there don't have the luxury of the Second Amendment that we have in the United States. So it's easy for them to get simply killed if they go out to the street to revolt, because it's just common knowledge that the Ayatollahs have all the guns. There are certain sects inside Iran that do have guns, but they have no chance. So the better solution would be trying to find these people and arm them. We don't need
arming
American
rebel groups in Iran. So you want basically there to be ISIS in Iran, because that's how they destroyed Libya and destroyed Syria and destroyed all these countries, is they just arm these rebel groups to go around, and then the rebel groups create their own little fiefdoms, and then the country is never a country again. Are you kidding me? Rebel groups? Come on, man. We've seen this play out too many times, and Israel doesn't have your best interests at heart. Israel will do to Iranians what it did to Gaza, if not for the fact that Iran had missiles. If not for our missiles, we would have been Gaza right now. That would have been your dream scenario, right? Iranians and breadlines getting sniped, which you refuse to condemn still, I guess.
When it comes to regime change, you have to realize that the enemy you're dealing with. And you have to explore all your options. And, like I said, boots on the ground, it's definitely too much, especially, as an American citizen. It's not something I'm entirely a fan of, because it's going to be too expensive, too many tax dollars, too many lives are going to be at risk. Iran is a big country with lots of mountains, harsh terrains. It would not be a good idea. But, why not find rebel groups and arm them?
Because that's serious. The lack of political maturity here is astounding.
At the end of the day,
arming rebel groups. Did that work in Libya?
Because Libya didn't have a monarchy that they thrived under. Our people have experienced a great life under Pahlavi era, and they yearn to go back to that time.
Afghans had a monarchy and experienced a great life, but that rebel group situation didn't work. Lebanon had rebel groups. Syria has rebel groups. Rebel groups in the Middle East just cause chaos and destruction. This isn't Call of Duty.
Because
they are
inherently Islamic. With Iranians.
Oh, we're not inherently Islamic. You are inherently Islamic with your wipe Hamas off the map and just
look.
Oh my God.
Because Iranians take a deeper pride in their ancient heritage and culture than they take in Islam. We had all of that stuff before Islam even existed.
And Lebanese people take pride in their Phoenician history. And Lebanon was majority Christian when their civil war, just about when their civil war broke out. So Lebanon is a Christian Phoenician country, and that rebel group situation didn't work so well there. Rebel groups have been tried in Asia and in South America. It doesn't matter what your history is, what your religion is, whether you take pride or not, whether you have probably maybe you would even say racially good or bad. It has to do with the fact that when you have a lack of state control, when you have weakness in the state, chaos, people with AK-47s running about. I've been to Lebanon. I've talked to Lebanese people in Arabic about how it was like to live under rebel groups. They didn't like it. Okay, I grew up with Iraqis. I've heard stories of the horrors of rebel groups. You wake up in the morning and someone's at your front door shooting you. I've talked to Afghans and to Pakistanis who've lived with this type of, Sepai Sahabeh. Speaking of rebel groups, do you think Israel is going to support a secular, liberal rebel group? You know who the rebel groups in Iran are? Baloch Sunni militant Baloch separatists, Arab Sunni militant separatists, Kurdish Sunni militant separatists. So you have three groups of Sunni separatists who are Sunni, proud of being Sunni, not like with your Shia pre-Islamic, Iranian delusions that Shia Iranians have. They're Sunni. They're proud to be Sunni. Alhamdulillah. They love Islam. Like I'm proud to be Muslim. They're proud to be Muslim. They understand Islam. They have the correct understanding. They're not brainwashed like you. They know what Islam's all about. But the problem is, I don't have a problem with that, is that they want to leave Iran. So all these Baloch and Kurds and Arabs are going to come to Tehran and be shooting my family in Isfahan, God forbid, shooting your family, and then that's your plan? Astaghfirullah, man. This is unbelievable.
What's your response with that, Matin?
He should just walk it back.
Well, I mean, you're calling me brainwashed. Like, what makes me brainwashed?
Well, the same way the Palestinians are. You said the Palestinians are brainwashed because they were raised by Hamas. You were brainwashed because you were raised by the Islamic Republic, right? They brainwashed us. Me too. I'm brainwashed.
Am I brainwashed to go to to go blow up and murder Christians, Jews, and pagans and infidels and all that stuff.
No,
No.
I didn't say that.
I'm, like I said, from lived experience, I've seen the atrocities that this regime is capable of doing. And it's not.
Look, brother,
it's
I
not
was
called
living in
being
Iran when
brainwashed.
Mahsa Amini happened. Were you in Iran when Mahsa Amini happened?
No, I wasn't.
I lived through Mahsa Amini. So don't tell me about what the Iranian government does or doesn't do, because you were in California and I was in Tehran when Mahsa Amini happened. So I know what life in Iran is like. I know what Iran's all about.
If that's the case, then how can you not be so adamantly against that regime and wanting their eradication?
I didn't say I'm for or against the regime. And I didn't even say I'm for or against them leaving. I don't like that word, eradication, wiping off the map. My issue is I'm a patriot. I don't want people to attack my country. You said I'm against Pahlavi. I'm not. You said the Pahlavi family, not this Reza Kuchul. I'm not for him. You love them, right? You probably all secular Iranians love them. Reza Shah would smack up anyone who defends attacking Iran. Reza Shah went to every one of those ethnic groups that was rebelling and crushed them to the earth. They didn't dare rebel. When Reza Shah was there, Iran, no one would dare leave Iran. Like now, we have separatism starting again. So if you believe you're a supporter of Reza Shah, like many Iranians are, then have his ghayrat that he had for his country.
I do have the ghayrat. That's why I want these people gone. I do have the. I mean, well, for the listeners, who don't speak Farsi, ghayrat is like pride.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Would you say
pride, zealousness, pride in your country, something like that.
Exactly. So I do have it. That's why I want these people gone. That's why I view them as the enemy. That's why
it's fine. Many Iranians think like you. I have family members that think like you. Where they draw the line is they don't speak. We say about him in Persian, Sadosh as Jai Gam Damirat. His voice comes from a warm place. He sits in California and says, attack Iran, bomb Iran. And my family in Iran are saying, God, they bombed our street. They bombed the street where my family lives in Tehran, in Patris Lamumba off of Sattar Khan Street. And they're all middle-class, normal people, average people, because the passport office is there probably is why they tried to bomb it. That's why I can't support bombing Iran. Don't you have relatives there? Don't you have family there? Don't you love where you lived? Don't you miss your street? I miss it. I miss it every day. Do you want your street bombed? Your school? My friend's school was bombed and his childhood friend lived next to it, his childhood best friend. And he died. His school was destroyed and he died. And he called me having a panic attack. Think about that.
I haven't heard of a school being bombed over there, but I do have a lot of family over there. I have tons of family. And like you said earlier, the place I grew up in was near one of their nuclear facilities. So obviously I was worried. But I was in contact with some of them. I was asking them how they were doing, and they were scared, but at the same time they were hopeful. They were like, oh, maybe this will cause a change.
Well, it didn't. It's a false hope. It's a political childishness and naivete that you share with them, with all due respect, because it didn't cause a change. It's the same thing.
It's like the false hope you have in a peaceful resolution. Having hope is not wrong, but like you have a peaceful resolution that hasn't worked out for over 4 decades, and the time for a peaceful resolution is over. Like I said, these people have to go. And I know we've been talking about this topic too much, but we should definitely get into some other stuff as well, since we're running out of time as well.
I just wanted to say that I think it's really unfortunate that you're so singularly focused on getting rid of the Iranian government that it's pushed you to and maybe you walked it back a bit now, but on Jubilee you didn't, to basically defending the killing of Palestinian children, to implying that none of them are peaceful, to implying that they all hate Christians and Jews, to now defending your own country, the bombing of your own country, to even saying you take up arms against your country. I think it's really unfortunate that you have they say Trump derangement syndrome. Certain people, out of respect, I won't say you necessarily, people have mullah derangement syndrome. They're so deranged by these mullahs that they're willing to support anything just to get rid of them. And I think this is very negative. I'm willing to move on from this.
Well,
I don't think we're getting anywhere.
Like about the MDS, mullah derangement syndrome. That was an interesting thing that I haven't heard of. But like, I wouldn't call it that. But can you blame people for having this amount of disgust towards people who have been?
No, I don't blame anyone for any emotion they feel. I wouldn't blame anyone if they say they love them or hate them. I'm disinterested in those feelings. But what I will say is Iran will not be better through sanctions and war. We've tried the sanctions for 40 some years to varying degrees, and we tried the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and it didn't work. You know, I hate to say it, I don't have a solution for Iran to make it better. I really don't know what to tell you, and that pains me. But what you're offering is definitely not the solution. That's my last word on it, unless there's a new topic or a new question.
I was wondering, maybe we should go to the actual Jubilee debate. So Matin, you told me that you didn't like being put alongside like guys who are actually neo-Nazi, right? So
yeah, maybe
look,
because I mean,
yeah,
you could see that they didn't want me there either.
yeah,
Like how can I be okay with people like that? And it's funny, like, you know, a lot of people online think that I chose to be there, to be teamed up with people like that who don't want my kind over here, even though I came here the right and legal way. But I mean, how can I be okay with that? But yeah, sorry, go on.
No, that's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, you go, Shah.
I had a question for you, Matin. I just wanted to know, what makes you so passionate in defending Israel? Because again, I'm a New Yorker, and my roomie classes, Israelis come all the time. Like every week, at least one Israeli or one Jewish New Yorker comes. I talk to them. We get to know each other. Grew up with Israelis and Jews. And all of them, whenever the problems of even the ardent Zionists, I know ardent Zionist rabbis here in Brooklyn I'm friends with, when the topic of a child died or something like that happened, they say, I condemn that. When Iran was attacked, I had 2 rabbis and many of my Jewish students immediately message, I'm so sorry this is happening. I hate that this is happening. I'm against this. Israel should not be attacking Iran. So my Zionist and Jewish fellow New Yorkers have more love for Iran than you did. What makes you love Israel so much that you, when they said Palestinian children are dying, you didn't just say, yes, any child dying anywhere is evil. If the Ayatollahs kill a child, it's evil. If the Russians kill a child, it's evil. If the Israelis kill a child, it's evil. If the Palestinians killed an Israeli child on October 7th, it's evil. I'm willing to say all that. But you said, no, what if they have a suicide vest? What if they're being used as a human shield? It's actually Hamas's fault. What makes you so passionate about Israel? Israel doesn't like you. They'll probably think you're a brown Muslim Hamas guy if they see you, Israelis.
I'm not doing any of this for anyone's liking or to appease anyone, to appease the Westerners, to appease the whites, to appease Jews. You know, you asked me, you know, what started all of this.
I didn't say that, though. I didn't say that. I just said what. You said that. So maybe that reveals something. I just said what makes you. I didn't say appease anyone.
What makes me? Yeah, but like, I'm not saying that I'm appeasing them or anything, but what makes me to come out right now, get on Jubilee, you know, become vocal about this and all that stuff. Last year, I was in DC, and that was during the same week that Netanyahu was in DC to speak to the Congress. That was the speech when he said, queers for Palestine are like chickens for KFC. So I was in DC, I was on the streets. There were massive protests against Israel and against Netanyahu, and some of them, you know, were outright pro-Hamas. I could see the green Hamas headband or some of their slogans. So, and I was walking around there, and I'm like, wow, like I'm seeing all this with my own eyes. I'm in the center of all of this, and it created such a massive emotional feeling inside of me when I saw that in my face, when I heard people shouting like, Hamas is coming, Hamas is coming. And
yeah, that stuff is fucked up. That stuff is fucked up.
And I'm like, you know, most of them are white people too. Like, you
That's
know,
true.
a lot of these protests tend to be like, you know, white, very liberal people, and often women.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
And I'm seeing all that, you know, of course it, like, you know, evoked a lot of emotions in me. And I'm like, I have to do whatever I can, even though I'm not big into, like, you know, like doing debates or like being center of all the attention all of a sudden. But I'm like, I had to start from somewhere, you know. I can't just let things like that happen to this country that I'm living in. Even though I support people's right to protest and all that stuff. But on a personal side, when I see people, especially liberals, becoming apologists for Islam, and then some of them
I don't think Islam. I would
Come on,
say it's
apologies for Islam.
I'd say Islamist extremism. I do agree with you. I do hate the Islamist extremist rallies, and I think they're disgusting. But yeah, you go on.
Look, how many real Islamist extremist rallies we're talking about, right? Every time there's a rally, there's always one or two people who come, and they're the farthest to one direction, and most of the people in the rally don't really even like them. And look, chickens for KFC.
A lot of it is kind of like leftists who have this kind of like Orientalist weird thing where they think
That's we've talked about this
like,
together.
Yeah.
But look, you say chickens for KFC. There's a really great anecdote in Arabic. They said, "Nadafa an al-madlum walau kalb." We defend a person whose rights are taken from them, even if they were a dog. It means it doesn't matter. Not to say that, not to compare them, but it means even if someone's abusing a dog, you don't say, "Oh, it's a dog, they're a lowly." Or even if the dog had bit you, it still has rights. Now, let alone a human being. It doesn't matter if Palestinians are not pro-gay because they're Muslim. That doesn't mean a gay person should hate them. Right is right and wrong is wrong. And the fact that you...
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, so the fact that you think that chickens for KFC is a point shows that you view it as transactional and from based on you. So because you're Iranian, you hate Iran, you now need to defend Palestinian kids dying. And because you're Iranian, you hate Islamists, you hate Hamas. It's all centered around you. White Americans who are supposedly chickens for KFC have a higher level of political understanding, a more enlightened version of politics where they're able to transcend themselves. So it's not chickens for KFC. Those liberal white people know that Muslims don't like gays that much, but they still say my personal beef is not that matter. My country supporting a genocide. That's what the matter.
You know, it's purely hypocritical I mean, they have the right to like voice their objection and all that stuff, but it's also very hypocritical because to be queer and to do things like that.
Why is
and
it hypocritical?
to have liberal views and stand for causes that stem from Islamic extremism.
Well, you can say it's a contradiction, but it's not hypocritical.
I wouldn't say it's hypocritical. I'd say it reveals naivete on their part, like they don't fully understand what they're supporting, but maybe not hypocritical.
Look, the reason that the resistance to Israel now is strictly Islamic is because of Israel. Decades ago, the resistance to Israel was mixed. There was always a leftist, nationalist, and Islamist. But Israel supported, this is well known, supported, and then the Islamists and sidelined the more, kind of middle ground factions, the same way that Bashar Assad released the extremists at the beginning of the Civil War to tinge the rebellion with extremism. They did the same thing. Israel released Sinwar. Yeah, Sinwar was in an Israeli prison. They released 1,000 terrorists for one guy. They should. I do have
to say, like, that wasn't necessarily Israel's choice to release him, though. Like, he was one of the chief.
Kept him.
It's interesting though. He was one of the chief negotiators inside the prison on that deal. So when they wanted to try and get that IDF soldier out of Gaza that had been kidnapped, he was one of the chief negotiators, and he was actually one of the most hardline ones.
Israel created the situation where Gaza would be ruled by Hamas to begin with. They were in Gaza. They created that situation. That was so predictable. You leave a place and you encircle.
Look, there was a coup
that was a predictable outcome.
After Israel.
That was look. That's not even really so important. Yeah. I just think that it's so regrettable, and I say this genuinely, that your upsetness with the Iran situation, and believe me, we're all upset, has led you to these really unfortunate positions where you're defending, Zionist rabbis that I know. Zionist Israeli students. I grew up with Jews. I grew up right next to the Jewish neighborhood, right? I played in the JCC soccer team, the Jewish Community Center, because you're not from America. Maybe you don't know, Jewish Community Center soccer team. I went to bar mitzvahs. I go to Brighton Beach. I have Russian Jewish friends there. In the Upper West Side, I have Jewish friends there. In Brooklyn, I have Jewish friends there. All of them unanimously said, I'm against the kids getting killed. I'm against the bombing of Iran. Because they're normal. Their politics are normal, like a normal person, even if I disagree. Your politics are abnormal. They're motivated by your trauma in Iran, with all due respect. And I say it as a brother. We all have it. We've all struggled because we're Iranian. It's not easy worrying about your family and having difficulties because of the Iran situation. But I would beg you to please walk these back and don't let your singular focus on Iran push you to defend things and say things you will regret. American public life will not look positively upon your statements.
Well, here's the thing. I told you, time to stay silent is over. Like you said, I had to start from somewhere, and even though I might not be able to be the best person representing something, but I'm giving it a try, and I'm willing to improve along the way. And because even though I'm an American and I'm proud to be an American citizen now, but being an Iranian is part of my identity. I can never erase that from myself. I can never like ignore that. I know some Iranians that come here like to completely forget about that part, but you know, it's part of me. I mean, how can I not care for a better future for it? Because ultimately, I believe
of course, I
once
don't
the
disagree.
IRGC goes, world would be a better place. Not only Iran, but world, especially
Look,
with the vast amount of resources that country has.
I'm not saying don't be passionate. I was born and raised here. My dad was raised here since he was a kid, and my grandpa came here. I'm generation 3, and I'm still passionate about Iran. I agree with you, but I'm saying don't let it make you lose sight of supporting a genocide. Think about how you sound. You sound like the leftists who support the Holodomor. You sound like the neo-Nazis on your stage who refuse to condemn the Nazis. You sound like them, but with the latest genocide.
Well, I mean,
don't go down in history as someone who supported genocide. Take it back. I will go on Twitter and say,
what genocide are we talking about?
The Israeli genocide in Gaza. Yes, it's a genocide. Everyone's coming to this agreement.
I mean, even ICJ said that, you know, there is no genocide going on, because for genocide there has to be intent too. Like, Israel does not have the intent to commit genocide. And on the other hand, like the population in Gaza, we both know it's gone up a lot. If there was a true genocide going on, that population wouldn't be going on. It wouldn't be going up.
I'll put in my 2 cents here. Listen, I think it's a horrible, brutal war, and I really want the horrible, brutal war to stop. My personal take is I don't personally think it's a genocide. That said, I do think it is a horrible, terrible war. There's too many civilians' deaths. I want it to end. That's just my personal.
Look, here's the problem with the whole genocide thing. Words have a legal definition and a colloquial definition. So in the legal world, when you say person, it means something different than when I talk. In the legal world, a corporation can be a person, but in the art world, not, right? The same is true for genocide. Yes, there's nerds in Geneva and The Hague and in Colombia here who sit around a table and debate what exactly genocide is. But colloquially, a genocide is used for a massive, undefensible, evil, violation of human rights style destruction of a population. When they say wipe Hamas off the map, wipe Gaza off the map, they are Amalek. I've studied Judaism. I know Judaism very well. I listen to lectures of rabbis. I talk to Jews who converse at length. We compare Hebrew and Arabic grammar. In Judaism, there's this concept. One of the mitzvot, a mitzvah, they have 613 commandments from the Torah that they're supposed to do. Maybe you don't know this. Maybe you have some Israelis in the background, you know, talking to you. One of the mitzvot is to kill all of Amalek. And a normal Jew, like the Jews that I grew up with, Orthodox Jews, will say, look, there's no more Amalek left. But the people like Ben Gavir say the Hamas people, they're Amalek. Show no mercy on them. It's said in the Torah, kill their man, woman, and child. That's what we're dealing with. You're fighting Amalek. So that's what you're defending. That's genocidal rhetoric. That's what makes normal people say it's a genocide now. And I don't have any problem with Jewish people or with Israel. And I hate to say that. And I don't want to see Israel destroyed, but we have to call a spade a spade. You sound like the people in 1940 saying, you know, maybe, you know, I'm from Detroit, Michigan. I live there. People are saying I'm lying about my anecdotes. I have a very broad world. Maybe many people can't understand it. I'm from many places. I lived in New York, Detroit, Jordan, etc. We had people in Detroit, Catholics, who were supporting Nazi Germany even during World War II. A very famous Catholic priest. He had a radio program where he supported the Nazis. And that church is so embarrassed of this legacy. Matin John, please don't create a legacy you will be embarrassed of. If you say I condemn the actions, the genocide, now you don't have to say genocide, I condemn the killing of Palestinian children, I'll stick my neck out for you. I'll go on Twitter and say Matin Samimiat is being misrepresented in Jubilee. He's updated his view. Give him some grace.
Well,
I will say that for you.
I would say I condemn Hamas, Hezbollah, and IRGC for the killing of the Palestinian children.
Well, just throw in Israel too. How about just all of them? How about that?
No,
how about this?
Because Israel's defending itself. Israel's defending itself. It's defending itself.
It's still defending itself
against existential threats. Because before that, I mean, right now it's not an option anymore, from my opinion. But like, there was a time when, if Hamas were to put their guns down, there would have been a two-state solution. I mean, I don't believe in that anymore. But there was a time. So it's important to differentiate between the two. One is defending itself against existential threats, and the other one is trying to, like, you know,
don't you think it's fair for Palestinians at this point? Don't you think it's fair for Palestinians at this point to say that Israel's actions, the actions of the IDF, are an existential threat? You don't think Palestinians don't think that about Israel? That they're defending themselves against an existential threat?
It all goes back to Hamas. You know,
Hamas wasn't there until 20 years ago. You know, the Israel problem started in 48 with the Nakba when they founded Israel. Their independent state was a Nakba, catastrophe for Palestinians. And from 1948 until 1979, I know in your mind, Iran runs everything there. For those decades, Iran didn't exist, and there was a problem. And then even when Iran existed, Hamas didn't exist, right? Hamas really became a factor in 2006 and 7 when they did the coup in Gaza and took control. So all the
they started
Palestinians were soaked
in the
blood.
80s, though. Didn't they start around 80s, Hamas?
Right, but they became a real player the way we were talking about them because of Gaza. But look, even the 80s, let's say 1979. Let's go with your date. Iran started this whole mess. From the 1870s, when the Zionists came and the problems began, till the 1970s, a whole century of bloodshed and violence and ethnic conflict and strife and difficulties. It's all Iran's problem in your mind? The Israelis are sinless. They have no culpability. There's no state on earth that's sinless.
This takes us back to the problem of Islamist extremism itself. Obviously, before 79, there wasn't an Islamic government running Iran. And things in the Middle East were a lot more peaceful. I mean, a lot more peaceful than what it is, what it looks like.
I don't disagree. Yeah, I don't disagree. Look, here, I'm not going to come here and tell you I'm an Islamist or I defend Islamists. And I'm not going to tell you that I love any government in Iran or wherever, or that the Middle East is better now than then. Yeah, I agree. But set that aside. I agree with you. I can see the point that you just made. Fine, that's true. What about these poor Palestinians who've been suffering for a century before that? Shah was supporting the Palestinians. There's newspaper articles. You can read Persian. He says we will not allow. گفت ما نمیگذاریم که مقدسات اسلام در دست صهیونیست‌ها باشد. ما در صورت جنگ فلسطینی‌ها را حمایت می‌کنیم. We won't allow Islamic sites being controlled by Zionists. If there's a conflict, we support the Palestinians. The Shah was pro-Palestine. The Shah. That's why I like parts of the Shah. I like the Shah. He had ghairat. He had dignity. He didn't kill his people. He stepped aside. He was in favor of the Palestinians. The Israelis were unhappy that the Shah wasn't as supportive of them as much as they would want him to be. He kept them at arm's length, right? You know, so you should maybe, if you're Pahlavis, you should look into what the Pahlavis would say before they lost their dignity.
They've never lost their dignity.
Okay.
If that was the case, they wouldn't have the most support from Iranians.
Really? They never lost the Pahlavis were never disgraced ever?
No, they were never disgraced. I mean, by lefties, by communist lefties and Islamists.
Yoga is pretty popular in California. Have you ever gone to a yoga class?
That's a random question.
Okay, it's fine. We can leave it. Go ahead. People
I just want to quickly note for people. So I think Daniel Hakikatshu, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Sorry, he's an Islamist guy. He's in the chat. I think he's watching. I've actually sent him a join link if he wants to join. It'd be interesting. I think he's much more to the right of Zadeh when it comes to Islam.
What I like about Daniel is that he left Shiism, became a Sunni, but he didn't let that make him be an enemy of Iran. He still supports Iran. See how that's ghairat, that's respectability. Even if I disagree with him on 100 issues, he ultimately understands Iran is Iran. And this Nayoa Berg you're posting, by the way, that's an AI person. That's not a real person.
Well, look, I can bring on Naya Berg as well if she wants to join.
Yeah, bring her on. Let's see if she's real or AI. She's fake.
Well, look, I'm happy to send the join link to more people. This is an interesting conversation. We've got 300 people watching live. It's actually pretty good. Guys, if you're watching live, please remember to leave a like on the stream. Leave a like on the stream. It helps us reach more people, and subscribe to the channel as well. We'll have more debates like this. But yeah, sorry, going back, guys, going back.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I do have to go in about 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes.
Let's take the questions then, the super chats.
But,
okay, yeah, okay.
You know, I wanted to mention something, you know, when Muhammad was talking about, you know, the whole issue with Israel and Hamas and things like that. I think based on the stuff that he explained, that should be enough reason for everyone in the world and every government in the world to support the objective of Israel in defeating Hamas. Because if people truly want the Palestinians to be free and to have a life, Hamas needs to go. Because these, like you said it yourself earlier, they're embedded within the civilian population. Because ultimately, if they cared about their own civilians, they wouldn't have done that. Because it's a very densely dense location. Everything's close. Buildings are close to each other. It's hard to prevent collateral damage. So if they truly cared, they would have put their arms down and ended all of this. But they're not doing it.
Listen, guys. I'm going to. If we've only got about 20 to 30 minutes
Let's
left,
do the super chats. I think we could go on forever. We're not gaining
Yeah.
any ground.
So,
Let's do
so
super chats.
essentially, how this will work, if people want to ask a direct question to Shargh, Zadeh, or Matin, you can leave a super chat on the stream, like $5, and I'll read out the question, and we'll go to, we'll ask the guests, and it'll be interesting. So again, guys, if you're watching live and you're on YouTube, you can leave a super chat, $5 or something like that, and I'll read out your question, and we'll have it for the. We'll have it for the thing. So we've got Diaberg saying Shargh Zadeh is misinterpreting the text because we have no clue who Amalek is. Again, I'm happy to have Diaberg on.
Can I respond to that? Look,
Yeah,
the point isn't what the text originally says. The point is how it's used by the people. They said the Gazans are Amalek. That was a direct quote from an Israeli important person in Israel. I can bring it to you. It's on Twitter. The Gazans are Amalek. A rabbi here, by the way, a rabbi here in Queens said that. Look at Rabbi Yosef Mizrahi said, kill the babies because the babies will grow into adults and become terrorists.
I want to say, I think that's fucked up. I think that's actually fucked
common.
up.
That's common. Yeah. Go to Hebrew on Twitter and hit translate and see what they're saying. And it pains me to say that.
I want to say,
let's go to the question.
I'll quickly say, right, like, I am overall a supporter of Israel's right to exist, etc. I'm very much against like the Ben Gvir sort of the Ben Gvir side to me is extremely genocidal, the extreme right in Israel. So guys, leave a super chat if you want to have your question read out to Matin or Shargh Zadeh. I will read it out. Leave a super chat, $5 or something like that, and I'll read out your question. Donate to keep Drew out of homelessness. Very
Are there any that are pending right now, or can I just say something while we're waiting?
Yeah. You go ahead. I don't think we have one yet.
Matin, would you condemn that statement by a rabbi who said that the Palestinian babies should be killed in Gaza because they'll grow up to be adult terrorists? That was a direct quote from a rabbi here in Queens, New York, in Fresh Meadow, Queens, I believe.
So that is extremely fucked up.
He said the babies in Palestine should be. So you condemn that statement
because it's talking about babies. You know.
Okay, I'm glad we got that. I was worried that you would say.
Because here's the thing, babies don't turn into terrorists. In one day. It takes time. It takes all their brainwashing techniques that they always do to turn one into a terrorist. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they would sacrifice babies to make.
Oh, what age? Oh, sacrifice! You sound like a blood libel. You sound like an anti-Semite. Sacrifices. I have a question.
I wouldn't be surprised if Hamas wanted to sacrifice babies.
Wait. What age do they stop being babies and do they become children? Because you said when they're children, it's okay to snipe them, but you said not babies. Is it 2, 3, 4, maybe 3? A toddler, if they can walk, it's okay to snipe them.
No, it's
At what age?
Anything that could pose a threat to you, your family, and your countrymen. Like I said, it's about survival in war.
I want to quickly say on the subject of sorry, actually, look, we've got 2 super chats. I actually forgot what.
Sure, let's hear them.
Okay, so Kamal Matin, how do you think a Pahlavi takeover of Iran will work? Is it contingent on Israel? What if I like having food, water, free education, etc.? So okay, this is a question for Matin.
So, the Crown Prince himself, he has mentioned that he has a vision of a referendum in mind. So once the path is laid out, the regime's gone, there would be a referendum. That's his vision. If the people want to have a monarchy back, then so be it. Because I'm personally, in favor of a constitutional monarchy. And let me read the rest of it. So it all, about the takeover. It all depends on the results of that referendum, because you got to care about the voice of the people. I mean, you can't just come in and be like, oh, all right, this is how it's going to be.
If the referendum, hypothetically, I know you won't agree, but hypothetically, if the referendum said that the Islamic Republic should stay, would you support the referendum?
There would be no more Islamic Republic at that point.
No, I know,
but you can't have both at the same time.
What if the referendum said bring the Islamic Republic back? Would you respect democracy then? Because I believe you don't actually believe in democracy. You just want to use it to your end. And if it's not your end, then you'll undo it, just like Pine Saw. If the referendum said pro-Islamic Republic...
I don't believe in pure democracy because, Nazi Germany was in a...
So you don't have any morals. You don't have any standards.
Nazi Germany wasn't... Well, that's not true. Nazi Germany wasn't a democracy.
But like
No,
it was the
he
voice
says-
of the majority that wanted Hitler.
He says we want a referendum, and I said, what if the referendum said the Islamic Republic should return? He says I don't believe in direct democracy. Exactly, you Pahlavists, you guys don't actually believe in democracy. You
Because
just want
there
a
has to be a
dictator.
constitution in place, just like United States, there has to be a constitution in place. Because when the voice of the majority becomes something evil, then there is no stopping it. That's why I believe in a constitution.
How about this, right? Here's a good question. So, okay, say there were constitutional safeguards to prevent Iran from returning to like the Ayatollah system. That said, though, imagine a majority voted for an Islamist Democratic Party. Because look, Islamism is a wide-ranging thing. I understand that there are hardcore psychotic Islamists. There are also more sort of democratic or moderate reformer Islamists. Where would you draw the line, Matin?
Like I'm trying to understand, like draw the line in between, not letting them come into power or something.
Turkey.
What parts
Turkey is ruled by Islamists. Turkey is ruled by Islamists.
Yeah.
Are they acceptable? The AK party in Turkey are Islamists.
Like Erdogan, for example, if say an Erdogan, not an Ayatollah, say somebody who was, I guess, a little bit more moderate on the spectrum of Islamism, I suppose, somebody like Erdogan was elected, like, would that be something you would accept in a democratic system in Iran?
Well, I mean, it's just a strange hypothetical, because I don't believe after all this suffering, people would want something like that back.
What if they did? Would you allow it, or would you override their democratic right?
It's just it won't happen.
It won't happen.
No
sure.
point.
Okay.
There's no point, like wasting my time on like a question and on a hypothetical like that. What if the people supported that? Because there is no way people would support anything like that after years of subjugation and suffering by the Islamic Republic.
There's this question here. Someone says, Matin, what if I don't want my queen to have a French boyfriend? I don't know. I'm not sure what this means, but what do you
my queen to have a French boyfriend? Because Matin is a French word too. I think it means dawn. So, but I'm trying to understand. Maybe it's the mustache.
No, but I think is it? There's this kind of like talking point against the Shah that his wife has a boyfriend or something like that. All right, I don't really know that much about it, but that was what the chat was reading.
Well, they're liberal, they're open-minded, they're secular. It's okay. Let it go.
Listen, look, I don't know. I don't even know. I'm not going to intervene there. So we've got another question by CJ Scanton. Habibi, you did great, but how can the US take sanctions off when Iran is so clearly in league with Russia and China to destroy the US? Listen, that's actually probably more my perspective too. I don't like sanctions. That said, though, the IRGC is very much in league with Russia and China as part of an axis.
Okay, so why don't they sanction China? Sanction China?
My perspective is I actually think they should sanction China. But
how about this? Sanction Iran, Russia, and China, North Korea, and Cuba, and Venezuela, and Syria all at once, or remove all the sanctions. I'll agree. I
actually would agree with that, to be honest. I actually think it's very hypocritical of the West, America, to kind of still have this big trading relationship with China over all this.
Yeah.
I mean,
this is where the standards come in. I actually have standards. My politics are based in morals, Islamic morals. You might think Islam is a barbaric religion, but I actually find the good in it. I have this Islamic morality that I have, right? I don't just have teams like that Nazi who was with you, and not with you, I don't want to say with you, but in the Jubilee debate, he said friend-enemy distinction. I think people like you, with all due respect, have that with respect to the people in charge in Iran. That if getting rid of them, anything goes. No morals.
That's actually a good question. What do you think, Matin, of the sort of Carl Schmitt friend-enemy distinction thing? My personal thing is I actually hate that thing. I think it's disgusting, tribalism and stuff like that. My problem is when leftists literally try to apply that to me, it's very hard. Sometimes my problem, right, is tankies or far left or people or Islamist extremists will apply the friend-enemy distinction to me, and I kind of feel like as a defensive thing, I have to just treat them as enemies if they treat me as an enemy. But I think in general, it is a horrible moral system to look at the world through that lens. So I'm interested, madam. What do you think?
I'm trying to understand the premise of your question. What do I think?
What do you think of that whole? There was that neo-Nazi guy in the Jubilee thing who literally said friend-enemy distinction. I believe that some people are my friends, some people are my enemies. You can do anything you want to your enemies, and you do anything with your friends. And the sad thing is, the sad thing is, I actually think that the IRGC, Russia, and China have that worldview as well. But yeah,
no, well, I mean, I'd much rather put my trust in Christian morals than Islamic morals. because I'm.
Are you a
benefiting-
Christian? Are you a Christian, Matin, or?
No, I'm actually not an atheist as he mentioned earlier, but
Oh, sorry.
I simply don't follow any organized religions, and that's just goes
Okay.
back to my background.
I apologize for making that assumption, by the way. I take
Yeah.
that back. You're not.
Actually, there was a period in my time when I got into atheism, but it was a long time ago, and I find it to be a very just not the best thing to do, because it can lead to a
Yeah.
path of nihilism and emptiness.
I think that's right. I think that's right. Like, even I'm a Christian. Even when I had my sort of like questioning phase when I was younger, I was more of an agnostic rather than an outright atheist, because I think atheism goes into too much nihilism. But we've got another question by Oswald. So, Shargh, you said earlier that regime change doesn't work. What about revolution, 1979? You called Matin a traitor. Are the American founders traitors? That's a good question. It's interesting.
So it says regime change doesn't work. Yes, Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan. What about revolutions? They sometimes work, but historically in the Middle East, they have not worked. In 1979, I don't know. Would you say that worked? I think many Iranians say that they're unhappy with the result of that. Is he a traitor? Yes, unfortunately. I'm not trying to be hyperbolic, but I really think so. And are the American founders traitors? Yeah, they would have been killed for treason, right? That's why John Hancock is famous. They said, if you sign this Declaration of Independence, that you will be hung for treason. And he says, I'll give you my big old John Hancock. Take it. And I won't flip off the stream because I don't want to be rude, but Iranians flip off with thumb. So John Hancock said, take this, monarch, big thing. So they were traitors.
Sometimes it can be morally justified.
No, but it's different though. They were a distant colony simply trying to get more autonomy. It was different than killing your own citizens. And they didn't initiate the killing. The British then came in to squash it, and they fought a brother war, which is regrettable. So in a way, they were traitors. And if America could have broken away peacefully like Canada did, wouldn't that be better to not have people? Wouldn't it be better to not have the Civil War? All war is terrible.
Yeah, America probably would have avoided us. I mean, the sad thing is America's kind of had two civil wars. I mean, the revolution was in a sense a civil war, and then obviously there's the massive civil war of the 1860s, etc. Like,
and by the way, America got divided because of our revolution. America was the British North America, Canada, and America. America is cut in two. That's Trump's whole point. So that could happen in Iran too. Don't you see a future? Maybe parts of Iran break away and get cut off. America got cut in half. It wasn't perfect. It didn't weather the storm.
There's a small thing I wanted to touch on. I mean, obviously, United States was viewed as the Americans at the time, the revolutionists were viewed as traitors by the Brits. But, if me being called a traitor means that it could create a path for Iran to become a great nation like United States has become, then I'm fine with being called a traitor for wanting to see the world free from Ayatollahs.
Well, the way you frame it, you say call a traitor and see the world free from Ayatollahs. No, you explicitly said you would take up arms with America against Iran. It's not called. It's just you are. If you're raised in a country, born in a country, nourished in a country, from a country, and you leave it and you go to another country and you pick up guns with that second country and go back to the first country, you're a traitor. That's just a fact. I mean, you said it. I didn't make you say it. You said it.
Well, just to add some more details to it, both of us are American citizens.
Yeah, but I didn't come here. I was from here because my dad's from here. You're different. You came here. I was born with this duality. You chose it.
So if the United States, decides to do anything like that, I would see it as my duty, because I took a pledge to become a citizen. So
to go kill Iranians would be your duty.
At the end of the day, because this country gave me the freedom I have, most likely someone like me wouldn't have been alive by now in Iran. So I appreciate the United States for having me here and give me the citizenship.
So to save yourself, you'll go kill Iranians. It's a great trade, basically.
Like I said, it's an important distinction to be made between Iranians and the subjugators, the Ayatollahs, and the radical Islamists. They are not.
Well, I'm glad you make that distinction for Iran, because you don't make it for Hamas and Gaza. You just want to see all the Gazans killed and swept into the sea, probably. But I'm glad you make that distinction for us.
That's Hamas's responsibility. They can put their arms down. They can stop being embedded within
the
population.
So then Israel can say it's Iran's responsibility for brainwashing its citizens and hating Israel. So when all the Iranians get killed in a genocide, then I guess you'll have to just say Israel isn't at fault. You should go to Israel and join the IDF. Actually, I'd pay for your plane ticket. On air I say, if you fly to Israel, I will pay for your plane ticket. You can be citizens there too if you want to collect citizenships and be against Iran.
Listen, we've got to go.
Yeah,
what do you want to respond to that quickly?
I mean, I'm an American citizen, and I'm happy with being an American citizen. Like I haven't thought about like doing that route and going to IDF or Israel. I'm happy.
But I'm
being
happy
here
that
in
you're
America.
happy.
Yeah.
So
So
we'll go through more of the super chat. So we've got this one by Dispipe. He says he's tagging Matin. He says, by who and when was the census done in Gaza to prove the population increase? That's the most disgusting. Listen, like I know obviously this comes down to the big debate over the amount of people killed inside Gaza, etc. You said Matin that the population is increasing. Obviously, I don't think the population has increased. I think it's interesting. I've looked into this thing before. I think it's very fascinating because the birth rate in Gaza is actually higher than the birth rate, for example, in Xinjiang, China, where the Uyghurs have been systematically sterilized by the Chinese government. So the birth rate is higher. That said, though, there has been forced depopulation. There has been hundreds of thousands who have left Gaza since the war began. There also has been, I don't know, up to 100,000 killed. So I don't think in absolute terms the population has increased. And obviously it's a very brutal war. I mean, anyway, Matin, do you have a response here to this one?
actually, was one of the sources was the U.S. government that did something. I think it was a year or two ago that found, what was it, like 2 or 3% population increase in Gaza. And of course, I don't remember the name of the source off the top of my head, but there's a clear population increase from 2005 when Israel withdrew from Gaza up until now.
Well, there's also been a lot killed too.
We've got a question here. And I want to say, we'll go to CJ's question, and then we've got one by Pure Programming. I want to say thank you to everybody who has sent in a super chat. I will try to read out every single one while Matin's still here. So we've got this question by CJ, and then we'll go to Pure Programming's one. So CJ says, Shargh, look, war is terrible, but for people like Matin who want an overthrow of the IR, what are they supposed to do when the Basij massacres anyone who dares to question the IR? I mean, look, that is, I think that is a good point. I mean, the Iranian regime does massacre its opponents.
Yeah, that's true. People like Matin, I said, I'd pay for his plane ticket. He should go to Israel and join the IDF and help guide the bombs to Iran. Go bomb Iran. So that's what he should do. People like Matin, I answered it already. Sorry, is there
a way though? Is there another way though where?
Look, joking aside, I said earlier, I don't have an answer. That's painful for me. I don't know what the answer is, but I know that the answer isn't war. A regime change war, which has been tried and failed, and especially not with my tax dollars. I can't claim to know all the answers. Drew, you're passionate about Xinjiang and Ukraine. What's the answer in Xinjiang? A war with China?
No,
nuking Russia?
No.
There's no answer sometimes.
No, look, I actually have thought about those questions pretty deeply. I've never think when it comes to, for example, the Uyghurs who have been oppressed by China and Tibet as well. I think war is absolutely that would be insane. That would be a disaster.
Or even Ukraine. Look, the smartest people in the world sit in rooms and they think and they can't get to the bottom of it. What's the solution for Ukraine? Nuke Russia? Obviously not. No. Sometimes a problem is so hopelessly complicated that no one person can just say do this.
My actual answer on the question of Ukraine was I think they need to basically keep defending Ukraine until Russia eventually just stops the war. At this point, at this point, Putin continues the war because it's in his favor to do so because Ukraine has had less support from America in the past year. He thinks that by escalating the invasion over the next 6 months, he can seize as much territory as possible before getting a ceasefire deal. I think you have to put pressure on Russia so that Putin is not incentivized to keep the thing going. But listen, let's go back to the Iran stuff. We've got a really good question here, and I want to say thank you to Pure Programming for a $20 super chat. That's very nice of you. So he says, question for Shargh Zadeh. Khomeini and Kahali killed a lot of Iranians during the 80s. Is Khomeini a traitor? Can you please say whether or not you believe Khomeini? That is a good question. I mean,
a traitor in my mind is someone who allies with a foreign actor to kill the citizens. So that would be like the people who joined the MEK to attack Iran. So if Khomeini and Khalkhali definitely, and he executed tons of communists, and Raisi was part of that, and he was sanctioned. Yeah, all that's terrible. By the way, I had a cousin who died in the execution of communists. So I'm not going to sit here and say that's good or bad.
Well, right? There were 30,000. There were 30,000 executed.
There's some large number, right? Yeah, it's a tragedy. Of course, my family was permanently traumatized by that reality. They're afraid to even mention his name. Of course, it's terrible. Wow. But look, that's a very fine distinction. So if you want me to say that they're bad, sure. But do you want me to call them traitors? I don't know. I think there's a distinction there, and then people will say, "Oh, you refuse to call them traitors to make it seem like you support it." But no, there's a distinction. If you're with an enemy country in a war against your own, you're a traitor. If you do atrocities against your countrymen, you can be the worst person in the world. If someone gets up in Iran tomorrow, hypothetically, don't do this, not saying I support this, and shoots 50 people, like a mass shooting we have here in America. He's evil, he's condemnable, he should go to jail forever, he should be wiped away from history, but he's not a traitor, right? Traitor has a specific context. So the answer to that is technically no, but don't say that Shargh is supporting this, because I suffered from it too. My family member died.
What's your take on that, Matin? That's interesting.
I think that's the worst type of traitor that you can have, because these people are claimed to be part of your country and claim to be ruling you, and at the same time they are killing you, killing tons of you for simply not being not being on the same side as them. So I think that's the worst type of traitor that you can have.
So then are Zionist traitors because they've killed so many people who are under their jurisdiction, and the Egyptian government and all these other states that regularly kill, and the Indian government that's torturing and harassing the Muslims that tacitly approved of the Gujarat riots, Modi, who's in charge, approved of them. And, are the Americans who killed all these black Americans in the 50s, 60s traitors? I mean, if that's your view, then the world is full of traitors, because the world's full of awful, terrible people who kill. So anyway, we can move on from this. It's not so important.
Look, I've got a $20 super chat here. It's incendiary. So listen, I'm not endorsing it.
Sure, yeah, go for it.
Okay, so this guy, Amin, he wants to ask about Muhammad and Aisha when Aisha was a very young girl. Listen, like, I know that this is a very...
You don't have to back it up so much. Why are you more bothered by it than me? I'm the Muslim here.
Well, look, I don't know. I see Tommy Robinson type people use this all the time to tell Muslims that they're all pedos and stuff. I think that's wrong. Listen, obviously I have a problem with what Muhammad did. I don't endorse that at all. I know it's a big incendiary topic, so I don't know. Do you guys want to talk about this quickly?
Let me answer, because I'm a Muslim. The Prophet, peace be upon him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was based in Chad, and everything he did was great, and he did nothing wrong. And whatever he did that's on the records, I unequivocally defend, and I will not condemn it. And you guys are just pure cringe, liberal talking points. Sam Harris, new atheist from 10 years ago. Oh, Aisha was 9. Aisha was 9. Aisha was 9. Guys, it was 1,500 years ago. The world was different. My great-grandmother gave birth when she was 12. 3 years after I... Yeah, the world was different. And I think Matin, with all due respect, I don't want to bring his family into it, but just as a hypothetical here, I'm saying probably his great-grandparents too. Ask your family members. Look at their Shinaznamas, their identity documents. Look when they were born and when their parents were born. That generation of Iranians, 12, 13, 14, very normal to give birth. I'm talking just 100 years ago. People, I was alive. They gave birth when they were 12. My great-grandmother died at the age in 110s when I was a child living in Iran, when I went to high school. We talked about. She gave birth when she was 12 or 13 years old. She didn't know fully because she didn't know her age. And by the way, Muslims debate whether Aisha was 9 or not. But even if she was 9, I would still defend it. And by the way, the Jews in their tradition have a prophet who married a 3-year-old. So if you have a problem with Muhammad being a good role model, then you should also be an anti-Semite, because they have basically the same issue.
I don't know. What do you want to say on this, Matin?
Well, obviously, I'm not a big fan of Islam in general because of its colonial spread and how it, invaded the Persian Empire, well, the Sassanid Empire, during the Islamic conquest of Iran or Persia at the time. So I'm not gonna defend anything related to something that brought so much suffering, destruction, and destroying of our texts and ancient religions. So I'm not going to defend it. I mean, I would never pick someone like that as a role model for myself.
Look, I'm going to quickly say, like, obviously I think it's bad because I have the sensibility of a modern liberal man. I don't think those types of relationships are ever acceptable. That said, I don't think you often do see like sort of far right people using this as a stick to beat Muslims with. And I understand for Muslims that like the Prophet Muhammad is their central figure within the faith. And I'm not going to just beat them over the head with it. I think that's cruel. And so, like, that's just my thing. I think it's a vulgar thing to constantly try and attack Muslims.
Thank you, Drew, for exemplifying Anglo civility culture, which brown immigrants tend to not have. Speaking broadly here, including my own relatives.
But look, like there's Anglo guys like Tommy Robinson, far right, who they don't.
Come on, he's not Anglo. He's like an Irish working class.
I don't know.
Genteel, he is Irish. I'm talking about genteel. He's not genteel.
Look, he's not genteel.
High IQ, living in London and in Boston or north of Boston and Maine. These people who built the societies that we like. And by the way, Matin, I think one thing we share is that I also like America. I'm happy that I'm American. I'm happy about America. I like the civility culture we have, and I hope that it wouldn't be threatened.
Look, I think the funny thing is that between all three of us, we're all like ethnics, but we all are probably Anglophiles in our own way. And that's probably it's interesting. So look, there's a couple more super chats that I should get through. So where's this last? Okay, so we have one by Netro. He says shorter Matin supports. But wait, is this a question or just an attack? Wait, shorter Matin
Hamas,
but does not support any. Oh, okay. So I guess he's attacking that, and he's saying, okay, yeah. Do you want to respond to that? So essentially, this guy's saying you're being a hypocrite because you oppose the Palestinians militants, but you would support militancy in Iran.
Let me see. I'm still reading it.
Can you see it? It's essentially what he's saying is you're a hypocrite because you support arming rebel groups in Iran, but you don't support Palestinian armed rebel groups.
Friend-enemy distinction. Carl Schmitt, the Nazis.
Because armed Palestinian resistance equals to terrorism and equals the existential threat to the state of Israel. And why would I support that? But an armed rebel group could help overthrow a regime that is subjugating Palestine as well.
Okay, look, let's just go on to the next one. Okay, so we've got another one by Kian. He says, Matin, the right-wing media has really affected your view on Iran. Most Iranians don't like Reza Pahlavi anymore since he aligned with Israel in the war.
No,
so what's your response on that one, Matin?
I mean, I am a conservative. I'm not denying that. But unlike some of the comments I saw, I'm not trying to be accepted by whites. It's just beliefs I have. But most Iranians
you
don't
keep
like
bringing that up. Is that a secret insecurity you have?
It's just, I see it in the
all
comments.
Three of us, in order of brownness.
No, we're all aliens here. We're all aliens here.
It's just it's so common in the comments. I'm like, why would I have any need to do that when I'm proud?
You're already Aryan.
Heritage.
You're already Aryan. You're already white. White people.
I do want to say that.
But back to the question.
Can I say one thing? I get this as true as well. So my views have become a bit more conservative in recent times, and then so people it's a thing that a lot of leftists like to do. They like to go, "Oh, you're not a white pure Aryan, and yet you have slightly more conservative views on immigration and stuff like that. Therefore, you're a Uncle Tom or something like that." And I think it's actually pretty racist to think that unless you're that every single immigrant or anyone who descends from immigrants to any country on earth has to therefore support infinity immigration forever and can't have the same interests as other citizens of the country. But that's my take. But anyway, going back to you, Matt.
The other half of the question, I haven't seen evidence of support for Reza Pahlavi going down, and I don't blame him for looking for allies to help us overthrow the government. And Israel is the best ally at doing that.
He's the Masoud Rajavi of 2025. Write it down and come back later and say Zadeh was right.
What does that mean? Sorry, I don't speak Persian.
Masoud Rajavi was the guy who led the MEKs and helped them Iraq attack Iran. And they currently also attack Iran and kill civilians and do things like that.
Oh, well, I want to say that MEK, I haven't read much into them, but they seem fucking psycho.
They're just a cult. They're like North Korea, but for Iran. It's really weird.
I think John Bolton.
God, I was worried. I was worried he would support that. He would say anything to get rid of the mullahs. I'm glad. Thank God.
I think John Bolton's talked to the MEK before, hasn't he?
Yeah, they buy Western.
That is pretty mental. Yeah,
they buy
MEK seems pretty psycho.
Yeah, they're mental.
So we've got one more. So got a couple more. Shargh Zadeh. This is a good point. I think this is a good point for Shargh Zadeh. What do you think of the IRI supporting rebels and balkanizing other countries to fact for against? Look,
I'll give it a blanket. Yeah. I'm against supporting rebels and non-state actors in any country, and I'm against balkanizing any country. And I don't like the fact that a lot of our resources were spent needlessly propping up the terrible Assad government. I'm well on record being against Assad from a long time ago. I'm well on record not liking spending billions of dollars. By the way, Muslims have canceled me for this. When I say I'm willing to step against my line and you're not, I said, where the heck is Hezbollah in this war? What did we send money for? I was condemned in Lebanese media. I said,
I remember that.
Actually, I said, why are we funding? Go ahead.
So there's that Australian-born Lebanese Islamist extremist called Janine Kalik, and she was calling Shargh Zadeh like a Muslim race trader and an Uncle Tom because
I'm happy to be one. I'm fine. I don't like Hamas. I don't like Hezbollah. I don't like any of these people. Why?
I respect you for that one.
I don't have any personal problem with any person. I don't wish them any ill. I hope the best for everyone in the world. My problem is that Iran, maybe we can agree on this, Matin, has a lot of problems, a lot of poverty. The electricity is going out in the heat in Khuzestan and it's 110 degrees and people's water is coming on and off. And people have problems. Iran is not a country that's rich enough to have proxies. Look, America is the richest, most powerful country in the the world, and it struggles to maintain its empire. 23, 36. There's a clock in Manhattan. Maybe I should go after this and check. 36 trillion in debt. So if America can't afford, to have a world empire, then maybe Iran also can't afford it. So even from a purely, even morals aside, purely self-interested perspective, Jesus, it's a terrible decision. So maybe Matin and I, other than disagreeing with the MEK, we have 2 agreements now, thank God.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. We've got a couple more questions. So, okay, no, we've gone through that one. Okay, these are just short. Like, does Matin get paid by Israel? Do you want to respond to that, Matin? People accuse me of that as well, which is funny. I'm not paid by Israel. I've condemned the Israeli government for lots of things. I condemned what they were doing in Syria recently, for example.
I mean, it's just like, people are going to believe all they want, but I think if I did, I'd have a better setup than what I have right now. And
I wish the Mossad checks did come through. Of course, that's what I always say.
The shekels, aren't helping much to increase my production quality. I think they would have cared to
I say the same thing. I say the same thing.
I find these talking points lame. People accuse me of being paid by the mullahs. They accuse Matin of being paid by the Israelis. Look, I was so disagreeable and even harsh against him, but I would never say that. That's just low. And we should always give people the benefit of believing that they're just genuine people. And wow, he's just a normal person like us,
This is actually a really annoying trend on like all internet discourse where like essentially like anybody who ever has an opinion on anything, you'll just accuse, anyone will say that you're a grifter, right? Like,
well, you know what I did see though? You know what I did see? Iranian Pahlavis were accusing, I'm not saying I did it, they were accusing you, Matin, of being an IRGC agent sent to make them look bad and then being a sleeper cell too. I saw that many times on Twitter.
I saw that too. But this is a good place to respond to them. I'm like, as someone who's a fan of Pahlavism too, if you care about it so much and if you think you could have done it better, then why are you saying those messages from anonymous accounts without even your picture? At least, like I said, I started from somewhere, and
you're the man in the arena. You're the man in the arena,
and I'm willing to admit.
That's true. It is true.
I like to improve as I'm going along because No,
I respect you. I respect you for that.
Like, I respect you for that. A lot of these people have too much expectations. Like, you have to be an expert, like right off the bat. And like, no, people have to start from somewhere. Greatness doesn't come overnight. You have to put yourself in intense situations. You have to deal with the hatred.
I actually respect you for that. Yeah.
And I'm okay with it, even though it probably puts my life at risk too by the Islamists.
Look, that's actually a good answer. And like, I want to say, I respect anyone who's willing to enter the arena. I've been doing this stuff for 6 years now, and Matin, this is probably like your second ever debate. I've been doing it for 6 years, so I think you're doing pretty good considering, like, you're very new to this stuff, I guess. We've got a couple more. So Arjun says, does Islam have a place in the government of Iran as an official religion? What should be done to protect minority religions and Muslim clerical freedom?
Is this for me? Because I think he'll just say no, it doesn't, probably.
I think maybe more for Shargh Zadeh.
Sure. So I would say that, look, even in the Pahlavi era, Islam was the official religion of Iran. It's just a matter of how seriously you take it. So I think Islam will, at some level, always be the official religion of Iran. Kind of like, the Christianity really is also the official religion of America. We swear on the Bible. We have the 10 Commandments in courthouses. We say, in God we trust, and the money. So in effect, America is a Christian country. Maybe actually a third point of agreement with Mr. Matin and I is that I think America should be a Christian country. It should be informed by Christian morals. I would like to live in a country that is Christian and not atheist, because I want some culture. I want some heritage. I want some softness, some morality. So in that same way, I don't think there's any problem. Even maybe Matin would maybe agree that Iran remains Islamic at that level, but that minority religions are free like they are in America, and that clerics can live their life. Like, look, I'm an American.
I think
I like what America does. I'm a cleric in some way, a Sufi kind of guy. I teach Sufism. I have a Sufi gathering. I'm free. No one tells me not to do it. And there's a Jewish neighbor and a Chinese neighbor, and we're all together. And America is Christian broadly, and everyone's fine. So I see the analog of that in Iran, that if I was an Armenian and Iran is a Muslim country, that I could live my life and be free, and like many Muslim countries.
This is actually a really good answer. I want to ask you a quick question on this because I think it's interesting, Shargh Zadeh. Where do you think the line should ever be drawn? So, like, I want to quickly say, remember when you brought up that extremist rabbi in New York City who said that every Palestinian kid should be killed? I think that should be shut down. Just as I think that, for example, Islamist extremists who are like outright literally calling for war against America and stuff should be shut down. So where do you think like the line should be drawn when it comes to like sort of extremist religious?
I'm more in the favor of free speech. I think maybe, again, we're like at the end, we're all just circling back to agreements. Matin had a free speech lawsuit, so maybe we agree. I agree with free speech.
I didn't even know that, but yeah.
Of course, the problem is that free speech needs to be it needs to be tempered by this culture of civility that America had that's slipping away. So that's where I don't know the answer, frankly. I would like to say I'm an
That's a great answer, actually.
But if our civility is slipping away and you have a Hamas supporter who is saying kill all the Jews and a rabbi who's saying kill all the Muslims, and it's like, I don't want to live in a country where insane people from the global south are calling to kill each other every day. So could we lose this? Honestly, I don't know. I want free speech. I want civility and free speech. But if people can't handle it, we have a good word in Persian, Matin, you know, jambe. Jambe basically means like if you can tolerate something. So free speech requires jambe. Ba jambe dashte bashi. You can have free speech, but you can't be a clown. Like you can burn. I can go in the street tomorrow in Manhattan. Right north of me is a Jewish neighborhood in Upper Manhattan. There's a string that the Jews hang to make so then the Sabbath they can carry their keys.
That's the lights. Yeah.
I can go cut that if I want to be a mean person. I can go burn the Torah in the street and they can't do anything, right? But I don't because we have civility. They respect me, I respect them. But if we lose that...
that's my attitude on Quran burning, for example. Like I don't think it should be illegal, but I think it's a disgusting, vulgar thing to do, and I think guys should do it.
It's undignified. And that's why I disagree with Iranian secularists in Europe. A lot of them have started like burning Qurans and stuff. I say, come on, man. I get where you're coming from. You're upset at Islam, but civility is so valuable. It's so important.
This is so true, and I think you've actually put it into words so well, Shargh, that like this is actually how I see it. And I wasn't even able to express this the way you did. I am actually somebody who loves free speech, and I want free speech. The problem is that when you have like no civility guardrails at all, and the culture is degrading, and then you just have people literally just saying we want to fucking massacre each other constantly, like that's when you start having to look at like sort of Singapore style things.
Yeah,
and
unfortunately,
the sad thing is I actually think it's like the completely cultural relativist open border sort of policies that a lot of Western countries that have at the moment that is making me think that even though I'm somebody who in my heart and soul loves free speech, we actually have to potentially start looking at sort of Singapore-style solutions. If we're going to have completely open borders, no defined culture, nothing that people are supposed to assimilate towards, and people are just going to be out of the street calling for the murder of each other, how do you even have a society at that point? So
you're right. It's hard to have a society with that. Yeah, I hate to say it, but I mean, Gulf countries have blasphemy laws that are all encompassing. So not just in favor of Islam. In Oman and in the UAE, you can't insult Christianity or Islam or Judaism or anything because they recognize if there's no shared common culture, everyone's from everywhere, they're diverse and multicultural, that the society will fall apart if you have
and just kill each other
getting burned. So I would hate for us to have to do that. I wish we could just have jambe, as we say in Persian, to just have enough maturity to not kill each other over the Quran or the Bible or the Torah. But
I agree
if we can't manage our society, I don't know, maybe I wouldn't live here anymore. I'd go somewhere else.
That's actually very sad.
I wanted to touch on the question from Arjun a little bit about Islam being the official religion. You know, the funny thing is they did a survey, and right now the amount of people who are praying or call themselves, to be praying is like 60% in Iran, but like it used to be 80% during Pahlavi's era, like pre-1979, which shows how religious extremism and Islamic extremism has has taken people away from practicing their religion. So, and my view is how Cyrus the Great had the view. He was responsible for the first ever human rights constitution in the world, and he allowed all different religions to exist within the Persian Empire. So, if the Muslims are going to be able to behave, so be it. I mean, why not? If everyone's going to be able to behave and coexist peacefully with each other, then let it
in America. Yeah, why not?
Matin, here's a good question. So I assume that you're obviously a free speech guy, and so I assume you're against blasphemy laws and stuff like that. And listen, I'm against blasphemy laws too. But would you agree that say something like the act of burning a Quran is like a vulgar act? It's not a nice thing to do.
I mean, Yeah, you're right. I'm against blasphemy laws. So uh, uh, I wouldn't mind that happening. I mean, yeah, it is vulgar, but like,
Well,
still,
my question
someone's
is
free speech
my
right.
question. Yeah, yeah, no, of course. My question though is like I'm actually in agreement with you that it should be legal, but I think it's a disgusting thing in the same way that I would
You
find
should
it
know
disgusting.
better, basically. You
Yeah,
should know
like
better not to do it, basically.
would you say? I know that you're sort of like a ex-Muslim guy, or you're like sort of anti-Islamist. Like, would you say that burning a Quran is a terrible thing to do, even if it should be legal, or what's your sort of stance?
Um, no, I wouldn't find it, a terrible thing to do, because I believe a person who truly believes in their religion shouldn't be mad over a book being burned.
That's not the question.
If
The
they
question is it incivil? Like,
no, like
you
I
have free
said,
speech. You can go in the street and call people fat and go to someone, you're fat, you're stupid, you're fat, you're stupid, to everyone. And I could do that right now. I can go in the street and yell at everyone, but I don't. That's the same. Do you consider it uncivil? Do you consider it
Yeah, that's the
rude?
question.
Like, be adab, as we would say,
I
to
don't.
do that.
Oh, damn,
Relieved.
he just got out.
He
Damn,
exited because he was
damn,
floundering. So.
I'm actually I actually really want to hear his answer on that. I'm hoping he'll come back in a second or something like that.
This was
It's
this was
actually
something.
I don't know. Let me quickly message him to see if he's coming back. I
I was
assume that
hoping,
maybe
I was hoping that he would walk back and I would come out on Twitter and say, look, this guy's is misrepresented. I would tag Mehdi Hassan and say, give this guy a chance. Like, you pushed him in a corner with your rhetoric. You grew up speaking English. This guy's learned this language. He's not a political verse debater, whatever. Give him a chance. He walked it back, but he just dug the grave deeper and deeper and deeper.
Look,
Now all I can say is he agrees with it. What he said, he didn't take it back.
Look, the hard thing for me, right, is like I'm somebody who's against the Iranian regime, and I'm also a Zionist. Like I support Israel's right to exist and everything, but like I just think he has this style that is too like sort of like, I don't know, just as you said, there's a lack of civility in the sense that the calls for elimination and things like that. I don't like that.
I mean, when he said we need a cleanse.
Yeah, that's really bad.
Of ideas. It's like, come on, you sound like Milosevic. You sound with that rhetoric is so dirty.
Was that in the Jubilee debate? Because I actually haven't seen his.
Yeah, it was in the debate. You should watch it. Man, it's bad.
So he actually
watch it. It's bad.
So he actually used the word cleanse.
The reason I did this debate and the reason I sympathize with him, memes aside, is I get it. I'm Iranian. I grew up in Iran. I have friends that think like him. But it's just a bad headspace to let Iran, and even Mehdi Hassan called it out, to let Iran consume your existence so much that you end up taking all these crazy positions that, again, even Zionists, people said he's lying about his anecdotes. I grew up next to a Jewish neighborhood in Michigan, and now I live next to a Jewish neighborhood. I teach Jews. All my Zionist Jewish students and people I grew up near, whatever, they're all like, yeah, of course, Israel is imperfect. It makes mistakes. We condemn the mistakes. People in the Israeli government condemn Israel all the time. They have a whole left wing. Yeah. But these Iranian Zionists are like more Zionists than the Zionists.
Well, this is the funny thing. Like people accuse me of being like, a complete apologist for everything Israel does. But like I've over multiple different points of the war, like I have criticized it. And I remember there's that guy that you're friends with, who's a writer for, I think, New Lines, Muhammad. And I think he's actually a really smart guy, even though he hates me. But he compared me to Jackson Hinkle, and he was kind of trying to say like, "Oh, Drew's just the like sort of pro-West version of Jackson Hinkle." But the difference is that like Jackson Hinkle's like literally never condemned a single thing Russia's ever done. Whereas I've actually multiple times I've actually said like I don't agree with what Israel's doing in certain context. Anyway, sorry, Matin's back. I'm glad Matin's back. Sorry.
All right, there might be some.
That's okay.
Because I had to get on my phone. I don't know.
Oh, that's okay. No, that's all right. Thanks for joining me. So we'll back. Let's finish that question because it's an interesting question.
Don't want to be called a quitter or anything. It's just internet.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So we had that question, right? And the question is like, I'm actually in agreement with you, Matin, that I think it should be legal. I think blasphemy laws should not exist in Western countries. That said, though, I still think it's uncivil and rude to do a Quran burning. I think it's a bad thing that people shouldn't do. What do you think on that question? Do you think, even if it's legal, do you think people should not do it?
Like you said, I don't view it as an uncivil act. Rude to Muslims, yeah, but I would totally understand it if an ex-Muslim like me wanted to do it because of all the suffering we've endured under Islamic governments. So
then you should say that Palestinian Americans in Astoria, Queens should go to Fresh Meadows, Queens, and burn Torahs in front of the synagogue where Yosef Mizrahi calls to kill their baby cousins in Gaza because they've suffered under Israel, right? That should that should be enough
like you said, I
to
mean, I'm against blasphemy laws, just completely. You know, it's just a book. At the end of the day, people should have the right to do it. Like,
right, but you should
here's-
also
here's
have the
question, though.
decency to know that it's indecent to do it. That we have civility here.
Because what we're talking about here is legal. It's like legal versus morals, right? So, for example, I think like in Western countries, adultery is not an illegal offense, but we all consider it to be an immoral act, right? And
Yeah.
I don't think it should be an illegal thing, but I think it is immoral. And that's my stance on, say, Quran burnings or Torah burnings or anything like that. I don't think it should be illegal, but I think it should be seen as something that's disgusting. That's just my view.
I mean, I already shared my view. Like, I don't view it as uncivil. You know, like I said,
We're getting nowhere. He doesn't
Yeah, exactly.
concede an inch.
Look,
He's
because-
stuck in the
okay.
mud.
We'll go to another question. We've got
Yeah.
a couple more. So we've got one by Brian, and I think this is for Shargh Zadeh. So was it wrong to eliminate the top 20 ranking IRGC leadership and leave the? I don't know. I think this is just a comment, to be honest. But
I mean, what am I to say? Like, leave the Supreme Leader.
Yeah,
It seems like more of a
I think
troll,
that's-
honestly. I mean,
I think
what
that's
am I to
just a
say?
comment. Okay, that's not a question. Okay, it's just a comment. So, okay, here's one. What does Matin think of the Mossadegh coup?
I think.
You there?
Can you hear me, guys?
So
Yeah, we can hear you.
So the Mossadegh coup. What's your stance on the Mossadegh?
Oh, that
coup?
one.
So, for example, you know, like the coup against Mossadegh, that installed the Shah.
I know. I'm just like,
Yeah.
I'm
You're
having-
for it or against it?
I'm having problems right now. Sorry. It's just video issues right now. Sorry.
Oh, your video looks fine, man. Your video and audio is perfect. Oh, okay, damn. All right, that's a shame.
He'll probably say he's pro the coup because he's a Pahlavist. So that's my guess.
Okay, right.
And obviously, he has no qualms with Iran's sovereignty being violated. So why would he say he's against it?
We've got the guy who asked the troll question about Muhammad and the daughter. He's got another one. I'm not going to read it out because it's obviously like,
Yeah, sure. So this is it's like a weird hypothetical. It wouldn't really exist. Like, I don't have a daughter. I don't live then. So it kind of like, to transplant me then, I can't really think like people then. I don't know
like
if I lived
1300
then.
years ago.
Yeah, so if I lived then and I had a daughter then, sure, because my family allowed my great grandmother to get married when she was 12, and they lived in like 1900. And Amin's family, probably, if he's Muslim or Iranian or whatever, would probably have done the same. So yeah, it's impossible to know. If I lived 1500 or 1300 years ago, would I be Muslim or not? Am I a Muslim in this question? If I'm not, obviously I wouldn't support it. If I'm a Muslim, then I would support it, because you're just supposed to obey whatever the prophet of your religion says. It's such a dumb. These guys, this is the thing that annoys me about
years ago.
Iranian monarchists. The thing that annoys me about them, they're stuck in like 2003 new atheism, like Islam, pedo. It's like, come on, this stuff is so old and so boring. Come up with something new. This has been done to death.
Well, like my critique is more of like the rubber digging rapids, like Dawa Bros type Islamism, like the kind of like low IQ sort of stuff that you get out of Britain. My thing is not against the religion as a whole. It's more just like the people who.
The funny thing is,
shitty ways.
Two people agree that Islam is about this stuff. The extreme Muslims and the anti-Muslims. They love to talk about terrorism and 9-year-old marriage. Everyone else in the middle, the Drew Pavlus, the Mohammed Mojaradis, everyone else is like, never think. You know how often I think about how old Aisha was when she married the Prophet? As often as Islamophobes bring it up to me, because I don't think about those things. It's just a factoid from 1400 years ago. The world was insane 1400 years ago. In the country I live in, we had Jim Crow 50, 60 years ago. There's people in Harlem. I live in Harlem. I talk to them. They lived through Jim Crow. They remember when this was segregated. But the world is crazy in the past. You're worried about that? No, I'm not saying we should do that now.
Yeah, no, I get.
So for the viewers, I was on my hotspot and I've completely used it up. So
sorry about that, man.
and that's another reason, if I was, being paid by Israel, I'd have better internet. So
no. Well, listen. What are your thoughts on the Mossadegh
one? I mean, most pro monarchists.
Oh no, I think it's fallen again.
He really does need the Israeli funding then.
I'm gonna call up. I'll call up Mossad. I'll call up my contact. Oh yeah, we got you.
I said, I'm not a fan of Mossad.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
So he supports the coup.
Okay.
Look, I said he'd be willing to fight his own country in a war. You think he cares about a coup? This is like small peanuts.
We can move on to another. We've got two more. Maybe we've got 2 or 3 more questions, and then I'm conscious of the fact that Matin was only going to do it about an hour, and we've gone a lot over. So I'm very much
a lot more.
Yeah, thank you, man. But okay, we've got 2 or 3 more, and we'll go through it. So we just saw a case study play out in real life in Iran v. Israel or US bombing of Iran. They chose to keep the regime in power, want to get a sweetheart deal with them, like Zelensky. Why believe this fantasy still? Who is this directed at? I'm not sure.
I'm disinterested in this deal talk because there's not going to be a deal anyway. They've committed to regime change. It's just a slow play out of a regime change. So if there's not going to be any deal, it's like the Aisha question. Who cares? It's never going to happen anyway. So whatever.
Okay.
Waste of time anyway.
Look, I don't. I guess he's just asking you about the deal or whatever. So we can. We've got one by Shirin Saba. Oh, this is a cool question. Where can I hear more of your ideas? How does Sufism shape your viewpoint? Do you think it can unite Iran? When is the book coming? Okay, that's actually a cool question. Okay.
Thank you. So more of my ideas. If you go on my website, Persian Poetics, and if you go on my personal pages, Persian Poetics and Shargh, Zadeh, my name on here is just my page. You can find more of my ideas, how Sufism shaped my viewpoint. Again, it gave me that moral yardstick. And also that love for my heritage. These Persian Sufis, they're what made me fall in love with Persian beyond just it being a spoken language. And again, a rare point of unity between me and my team. We appreciate Maulana, Rumi, Hafiz, all these people. And I am so appreciative of that moral yardstick they gave me, that all humans are valuable, that all people are precious, that all religions have beautiful wisdom. And this, I agree. It's a way to unite Iranians. Like me and my team, we couldn't disagree more. We agree on this. So I think Iranians can unite on loving this heritage, and it is Islamic. Now, Matin might say it's in spite of Islam that they were like this, but I would say it's because of Islam. And the book is actually, it is out. You guys can't see it because I have these antique clothes. So I bought these antique clothes to prove to people who hate Islamic tradition in Iran that we did dress in robes. They're really old clothes from Iran. And I also have this dagger, by the way, in case anyone insults Islam. I have a dagger here. So I have a book out. It's called The Flame of Love, and it is out. Actually, just came out. It's a Rumi book. And
that's cool. I'll have to order it. I'll literally order it.
Yeah, it's called The Flame of Love. Here, I'll show it to you. Just give me 1 second.
Please do. I'll literally order it. That's cool. This is a question for you, Matin.
Here it is.
That's cool. That looks awesome.
Tickets.
There you go.
It's got a nice design.
Thank you. I will gift you a copy, Matin. If you send me your address, I will send you a copy.
Yeah, I'd be willing to look through that book.
We can discuss that as my gift to you.
This is beautiful humanity and civility here. I love it. I want a quick question for you, Matin. Are there forms of moderate Islam that you are okay with? Like, is your problem with Islam as a religion as a whole, or do you think that there are interpretations that are worse than others? Some interpretations can be humane and civil, etc. Like, what do you think?
I think my answer to this question is already quite obvious. I'm just against all forms of Islam.
Okay.
That's the simplest way I would put it.
Rumi is calling you. Rumi is Islam. He's calling you, Matin. I'll send it to you.
I'd argue Rumi was doing that because he was under Islamic rule, and he couldn't say anything else, and he had to do it for survival. But I do have a problem with just the core belief in Islam, versus like people who are pagans or infidels or Christians and Jews.
You keep bringing up pagans. Where are pagans? I've never met a pagan.
Pagans, like the idol worshippers, like when you like idols that you create, that's pagans, do things like that too, and they label them as kafirs or infidels. So
Judaism is more against those things, by the way, than Islam. Jews aren't allowed to go inside a church. Jews were commanded to kill people who are paganish. Right, the Amalek. So Jews, if you want to hate Islam, you should hate Judaism. If you want to be fair, you should hate Judaism.
But I think it's the same with Islam, though, Shargh. There are obviously so many different interpretations and so many different sects and denominations.
But he's blanket. He says, I hate all forms of Islam or something like that.
Well, Judaism is not the religion that has subjugated like my country for a long time.
This is the difference. I have a universal humanity. To me, the Palestinian child is like the Iranian child. They've subjugated the Palestinians. I don't say my country because Islam's Rumi teaches me to have a global humanity. There's no difference between an Arab and non-Arab other than with piety. We're all the same except those who are pious is what differentiates us. So for me, a Palestinian child is subjugated by one extreme particular political form of Judaism. I'm against that too. But you say I'm against all Muslims, and I say Judaism, you say they're not against me.
Not Muslims, just
Islam, all forms of Islam.
belief in
Sorry,
Islam.
all
Yeah.
my apologies. All
Because
forms of Islam.
I don't believe all Muslims like live, exactly by the teachings of Islam, or else things would be much crazier.
So we've got a quote. We've got one by Amin here. He says, "Matin, when did you first start seeing the IRGC as enemies? When the Basij were gassing girls' schools after Massa to keep the schoolgirls in line, or before?"
When the Basij were gassing girls at schools. Well, I mean, the very, very first time I was a teenager, and that was like the Green Movement. Even though as a young kid, like I didn't understand much. I thought the Green Movement, was gonna fix anything. But that's the reality over there. That's something you learn that presidential elections are just a joke. But like I saw people die from those protests, and I'm like, oh wow, like how can a government do that? And believe it or not, in high school, I received some whipping by the Basij. And
well, tell us about that. This is interesting.
Because they labeled me as a cult leader who introduced people to music of metal. And metal.
Really? Okay. Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
I think America needs punishment for bad music taste. In New York, people are constantly blasting terrible music. I want to lash people who have bad. No, I'm joking. I'm sorry, it's terrible.
And like I think when it comes to music of metal, it's like it's so refreshing and like energizing when you feel like you feel rebellious, or like you feel oppressed by like tyrannical power like the IRGC. So that's why it was so effective back then.
Metal has something in common with Sufis. Metal people grow long hair and they headbang, right? Sufis do that too. That's why I have long hair. Grow long hair, and in our worship we go like this. We have headbanging. So maybe you should come.
That's cool.
I'll give you my book and I'll show you Islam is not that bad. You can embrace it. It's okay.
This is actually really interesting. Like, so Matin, I remember I saw somebody post a photo of you dressed up as the Grim Reaper. So like, I know like you've been really interested in metal, I guess, for all your life. Tell us, how did you get into metal in Iran? And then like, how did that whole thing happen? Like, how did you get whipped? Like, this is actually really interesting. I wish we had maybe actually opened the discussion with this, because if we had discussed your personal experiences, I think it would have made it maybe more sympathetic or maybe more understandable for people why you're so radically opposed to the Iranian regime.
Yeah, exactly.
Because listen, if I was whipped by a brutal government, I would probably be like, destroy that government too. I get you. But, yeah.
So it's actually a very interesting story. So I mean, I'm sure Mohammed knows, but almost all families over there have satellite TVs, and because the national TV, the state TV is horrible. It's just filled with propaganda. So everyone's got satellite TVs, so they can like watch something better than that. And I remember, I was 10 years old, and there was this music video being played, and it was by Nickelback. And then Nickelback, it's like is like a target of like being made fun of, by a lot of Americans. But that's what got me into it, because I was like, oh wow, like I've never heard like the mixture of like electric guitar with raspy vocals and the drums and all that stuff, and I loved it. So I looked into more metal bands. Well, I mean more rock band, and then it escalated to metal, and then there was a time period where I was like big into black metal. Black metal is known for being extremely anti-religious, and then like then over the years,
they burned all those churches in Norway.
Yep, they did.
Like yeah,
and that was like my atheist era, and then then now I mainly listen to doom metal, which is a much lower version of metal, because most people expect metal to be like fast and aggressive, but like it's just slower. It's more relaxing, I'd say. But the issues with Iran, it started with high school, because I actually, because I mean, their copyright laws don't mean anything in Iran. So like doesn't matter if you download and pirate music. So that's actually your only way of like getting your hands on new music. It's just to pirate it.
Right.
And so I would like, you know, download all this stuff, and then I would sit down with my friends and like I would share it, you know, using Bluetooth. And then, you know, they're like, oh wow, this is so cool, we love it. And then they're like, well, but what does it say? You know, your English is better than ours, you know. So then I started to like translate these into English. I mean, from English into our language, so they could understand it. And they're like, oh wow, like, you know, it's just like feels a lot better when you know what they actually say instead of like the growling. And
Right.
and it got pretty big. Like, you know, funnily enough, they used to call me prophet of metal.
Right.
And
Okay.
so it became a very widespread knowledge that I was doing that. And even in like some Western country, you know, metal is viewed as the music of, you know, Satan or
Yeah.
devilish.
Yeah.
And
A lot
they're
of
all
people, yeah,
part.
in America, that's the big thing.
So
in
you have
America.
sympathies for paganism. I knew it. You keep bringing
And
up paganism.
and there are like, you know, types of metal that, you know, are satanic. And you
But
know,
there was the huge thing in America of the conservatives hated the satanic rock for like decades, you know. So yeah.
yeah, and that's like, you know, one of
Yeah.
the things that I'm not in fully agreement with, like, you know, the conservatives. I'm like, you know, there are different types of metal. You know, it doesn't mean you're like a Satan worshiper, you know, for just listening to metal.
You know, I have a question for you, Matin. Do you see any parallel between what you've experienced in Iran, between what Palestinians experience with Israel? Lack of freedom, petty removal of freedom, indignities. Can you not see the parallels and the irony at all that you hate the Iranian government and Palestinians hate the Israeli government for very similar reasons? Not Hamas, not Islamists, just average people, Christian Palestinians even. You don't see any parallel, any irony to that?
Well, I mean, it's just their hate is focused on the wrong people. They gotta focus it on Hamas.
What about the West Bank Palestinians, the ones that don't live under Hamas or before Hamas existed? What about in the 80s? What about in 1948 during the Nakba? Should they focus it on Hamas then? It's all Hamas, Hamas. It's greater than Hamas.
Bill, you know, like I said, it goes back to them just being against the Jews. So, like, why can't they, you know, peacefully coexist with the Jews and like be
Are you
constantly
saying
against
they,
them?
as in all Palestinians, are against
No,
the
of
Jews?
course
Or
not. The crazy ones that, you know, are willing to act upon their
so
words and the
then,
teachings of Quran.
are the churches that Israel bombed against the Jews? The churches too? The one that the Pope would call the one Catholic church in Gaza that was bombed, are they against the Jews too? You know, I actually have an anecdote. Do you guys know who Justin Amash is?
No, I don't.
He's an American congressman. His family came from Israel or Palestine in 1948, before Israel or Palestine really existed. And when it was Ottoman, they got Nakbad, and half of them went to Jordan and half of them went to Gaza. And the ones that went to Jordan came to America. And the ones that came to America produced Justin Amash, who is a lawmaker and a thought leader in the libertarian faction of the Republican Party. And Justin
Okay, I think I
Amash's
know it.
Christian relatives who lived in Gaza were bombed and killed. I think 40 of them or some insane amount. And their church was bombed and destroyed. And that's why I am pro-America and not pro-Israel. Because America says, come on, and you can be a leader in our country. You can do great things. And Israel says, I'll bomb you and I'll bomb your church. So that's why I think, Matin, if you want to be an American, I'm glad you're part of the club. I'm glad you came. You should embrace American values and support our vision for minorities, for the other, not the ugly Zionist vision, which is that you must get flattened to the ground or you must submit yourself. America gave me and you dignity, and I love America for that. It gives Palestinians in their own country indignity.
I think
Zionism is simply believing in the right of Israel, the Jews to have a state, in that state of Israel. There's nothing wrong with that.
I think just
I didn't say there's anything wrong with it. Their conduct, not their existence. I'm not debating on their existence. I'm debating on their conduct.
What I would say to Zadeh is, just as there are lots of different interpretations and factions within, say, like Islam or whatever, like within like the Zionist political movement, there's so many different interpretations and tendencies. The woman, for example, Vivian Silva, who was killed on October 7 in one of the kibbutzim, she was a liberal Zionist, and she had spent her entire life helping Palestinians. She took sick Palestinians out of Gaza, took them to hospitals in Israel to be treated. And she was slaughtered on October 7th. And she's a liberal Zionist.
Yeah, it's terrible. I didn't defend that.
I know you condemn that. What I'm saying though is, like, Zionism is such a big tendency that it can incorporate both Vivian Silva, who's like a liberal Zionist, and it can go all the way to someone crazy like Randy Fine or fucking Ben Gvir.
No,
And so
I
I think
agree.
like,
Look,
so-
the people I know here who are Jewish, who are Israeli, are Zionists. I grew up with Zion. People told me I'm Zionist. I have family in Israel. I visit Israel.
Yeah.
Oh, why did you miss class last week? I was in Israel. That's fine. I'm not saying whatever. I hate all Zionists or whatever. It's just, it's so easy. Just call out the craziest ones. Look, I get it. The Jews are going to be there. The Palestinians are going to be there. They have to learn how to live together. Both sides have to learn how to live together. And the Zionists will be there still. But the issue is the crazies in the Zionists, which, by the way, if you're pro-Israel, you should call them out because they're going to push Israel to the brink of destruction. So if you're pro-Israel, join me in calling them out.
Well, look, I actually am doing that right now with like Randy Fine and Ben Gvir. I agree they're crazy. And the reason I bring this up though is because you said, you know, Zionism's vision for the Palestinians is to crush them. And I'm like,
I'm sorry, the crazier, whatever. Okay, yeah. Well,
because they're also,
by the way,
yeah.
Which faction is in power now though? The crazy ones, the Ben Gvirs, the bad ones.
I agree with you that the sad reality is that the far right crazy ones are in power. That is the sad reality. We've got two more super chats, and then I guess we can.
Let's slowly wrap this up. I feel bad. He has things to get to, and I have things to get to as well.
So let's give it 5 more minutes, maybe. We can end it around 2.5 hours. I want to say thank you so much.
There's two questions, should be the last ones.
Okay.
Stay here.
I think this is for me. Obviously, it's for me. Khaybar ya Yahuds Jaish Muhammad Sophia. This is what he's talking about, which means Khaybar, O Jews, the army of Muhammad is going to come back at pro-Palestine chants. It's a reference to a battle where the Muslims fought Jews. I don't support this chant. I never said this chant, so I don't know why I'm being asked about it. And of course, Matin will be against it.
I do want to say, look, it's not just fought Jews. It's a pretty genocidal chant because it references a slaughter. You could say it's almost like an equivalent of.
By the way,
Amalek thing
I don't believe it happened. I don't believe the slaughter actually happened. You know why?
Yeah.
Jews are very happy to write about their discretions and things that happened to them. The Jewish Bible is full of we messed up, we did this, we made God mad. And if you ask a Jewish person, they will happily tell you all the times they were mistreated. And of course, we're against that. Khaybar massacre is not in Jewish texts. It might have been kind of pieced together or semi-happened, semi didn't happen. But Jews are happy to tell you about every injustice that's happened to them. But they don't in their own history have Khaybar. So I don't even fully agree if it happened, but we can move on from it. It's not so important.
Look, it's a very interesting thing, like that early part of Islamic history where there are the early interactions between the Prophet Muhammad and then the early Jews and Christians, and it's a lot of it is garbled, and it's very hard to determine what actually happened because I think some people like the interpretation is that Muhammad went to the Jews and the Christians and expected that they would then follow him.
And then they did it, and he's separate. But we can discuss this. I'll come back a different day. We'll do it.
Yeah, it is interesting.
Theology Q&A. I would love to. Do
that. No, that actually would be interesting. So we've got one more. So Matin, happy to have you in the US. Have you considered therapy for trauma in Iran? Your trauma dictates your entire worldview, which is not healthy. I want to say one thing, right? Like, probably in my own crazy moments, like my trauma of having had like communists spend 5 years calling for me to be killed and shit like that, it probably informs why I sometimes get so hardline about communists and stuff like that. Like where sometimes I'm just like literally just crush communists, crush Hamas and stuff like that. It probably some of it comes from my own trauma because I've had Islamic extremists spend 2 years calling for me to be killed.
And trauma of millions of people in the world that have died by communism.
Yeah. So look, I understand. Look, this is actually a hard question. I think sometimes we should acknowledge that, our own personal hurt and trauma can actually inform why it leads to radicalization and stuff like that. Like, I don't know. What do you think, Matin? This is an interesting question.
Well, I mean, therapy part, what are you going to do? Just like, I feel pretty stable. I'm not going out there and just stabbing Muslims like, they're doing in Europe. Like, I'm perfectly able to coexist with them. I have lots of neighbors that are Muslims, and I say hello to them. We
Well, you're a non-violent person.
So I don't think, it traumatized me to the point where I would need therapy. I've come to terms with it, and one thing that helps me to just deal with it, is benefiting from the freedoms I have in this country. And it's been 11 years since that happened. So it's been a long time.
How old are you out of interest, Matin?
Try to guess. Because I've heard,
25, 26?
I've heard a lot of people, go in the 40s or 30s and but no, yours was very close actually. I'm 27.
What year are you? Okay, so you're born 1998.
Yes.
I'm 1999.
Oh
Okay.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's interesting. Like when we were basically in high school at the same time, it's crazy how different your high school experience was. That you literally got fucking whipped by the Basij, while I was in high school, just minding my own business. That's crazy, man. Listen, I you know what? I actually said this, Matin. I think I said this before, but I actually really wish that we had opened the discussion with your own personal experience in history in the Islamic Republic, because I think it would give people more context for why some of your views are so hardline. Because listen, I understand it. Look, I do think my personal take is, and I said this to Shargh, I think rhetoric like elimination and eradicate and cleanse, I really don't like that rhetoric. I think it's bad rhetoric. And so, like, I disagree with you on that sort of stuff. But I think if we had opened with the discussion of what you had experienced in the Islamic Republic, I think maybe people would understand why you've got more hardline. And I think people are often hardline in response to their own trauma and stuff like that.
Mhm.
It's sad. It's sad. Yeah, it's sad.
But I think that's a good place to leave this
Yeah,
at. It's 2 hours and 30 minutes.
Yeah, good place to end this. I want to say thank you so much, Shargh and Matin. This
Thanks
is
for
actually
having
really
me.
cool. I'm actually really happy because we had 200 live viewers for 2.5 hours. That's one of my biggest streams ever. So you guys are legends for doing
Captive
this.
audience.
Thank you so much.
Good.
Yeah. No,
My
you
pleasure.
guys are legends.
Thank you
doing
for
this.
having me.
Thank
Well,
you. It was actually,
thank
you
you
know
for
what? It was
having
actually
me.
a productive discussion. It was actually pretty
I think it
productive.
was. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was nice to
Thank you
meet
so much,
you, Muhammad.
Nice to meet you as well, Matin.
Again, thank you for translating Persian
And my
poetry.
pleasure. And I'm serious about this. If you give me your address, I'll send you this book. And if you come to New York, you're more than welcome to be my guest at our Rumi gathering. Every Wednesday we gather. So come, we have Persian food. We'll read Rumi. We'll, in our shared Iranianness, we will have agreement about that, at least.
That's a great idea. Listen, I'm actually hoping that I can visit America for holiday later this year. If I do, then we should all meet up and have an interesting.
Inshallah, we will.
Inshallah, we'll have an interesting Iranian Persian lunch.
That sounds like a good idea to me. But
Okay,
thank you, everyone, and have a good day.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you guys a lot. You're both great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Thank you, Matin. Thank you.
And thank you, Drew, for doing this.
Thank you, mate. Thanks so much.